Chapter 5488. The first fire god, Zhurong, was a Khanate life form. It was said that he was the first life form born from flames. He was one of the earliest Khanate life forms. Therefore, the first fire god, Zhurong, was extremely terrifying. In his earliest days, he became a god in the hearts of countless life forms. The reason was that the first fire god, Zhurong, had the ability to control flames. He brought flames to a race that had just been born. This was a powerhouse that could be compared to Pangu, Nuwa, and other existences. No one knew exactly how powerful the legacy of a Tao orthodoxy was. Come, let's go in and take a look. Lin Feng said. Tao Tai and Wu Xiaoran nodded and flew into the endless sea of fire with Lin Feng. Tao Tai said, I heard that the first fire god was an awesome figure. Lin Feng nodded and said, yes, the first fire god was terrifying. According to the rumors, the first fire god seemed to be the incarnation of the Scarlet Emperor. Scarlet Emperor was a title. It was the incarnation of the Tao. The Scarlet Emperor of Fire was a god formed from the Tao of Fire. This kind of great Tao god was very special and was very different from a titled god. It would not be passed down. It wasn't something that could casually appear. Many great Tao gods often had historical prototypes. For example, Lin Feng cultivated the flame escape technique. After cultivating it to the peak, he could condense the Scarlet Emperor's phantom. Who was this Scarlet Emperor condensed from a divine ability? It was most likely the fire god, Zhurong. The fire god, Zhurong, left behind many good things. This was because the fire god, Zhurong, liked to refine magic treasures. And the fire god, Zhurong, was a figure from the beginning of the era. At that time, resources were abundant. All kinds of resources could be found. All kinds of materials for refining magic treasures could also be found. Therefore, the fire god, Zhurong, refined many top-grade magic treasures. For example, the wind-fire wheel, fire gourd, fire seal, fire sword, fire god shield, fire bow, and other supreme treasures. They were all treasures refined by the fire god. Each of these treasures was more powerful than the last. Among them, the most powerful one was the Scarlet Emperor sword. It was rumored that the Scarlet Emperor sword was comparable to an ancient weapon. It was the Emperor of Swords. In addition, the fire god's legacy was also very terrifying. The fire god created 3 immortal sutras. The first type of immortal sutra was called Ask Immortal Tao Sutra. The second immortal scripture was called the Fire God Law. The third immortal scripture was called the Scarlet Emperor Immortal Scripture. It recorded the Scarlet Emperor's understanding of the great Tao, as well as some of the Scarlet Emperor's powerful inheritances, and so on. Why did cultivators have to cultivate immortal sutras? In fact, many people thought that cultivators cultivated the Immortal Sutra in order to increase their understanding of the great Tao. At the same time, they could also learn the many magical abilities recorded in the Immortal Sutra. But in fact, there was an extremely important matter. Many people didn't know. If he wanted to surpass the Saint Realm, he would need to use the Immortal Scripture as a foundation. Only then would he be able to establish a good foundation of the great Tao. What was an Immortal Sutra? This was the Tao. Therefore, cultivators had to cultivate more immortal sutras in order to build a good foundation. It was like building a house. If the foundation is not stable, is it possible to build a skyscraper with hundreds of floors? Therefore, cultivating the Immortal Sutra was too important. In fact, no one, not even Lin Feng, knew about this. Lin Feng liked to collect top-level Immortal Sutras to cultivate because he felt that after cultivating those top-level Immortal Sutras, he could increase his understanding of the great Tao. It would allow him to come into contact with more top-level magical abilities. As for surpassing the Sage Realm, One needed to use the Immortal Sutra to build a foundation. No one told Lin Feng about this, so Lin Feng naturally didn't know about it. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Along the way, there were many cultivators flying quickly towards the depths. It seemed that there were quite a lot of people who knew about the place where the fire god fell. However, Lin Feng and the other two were still leisurely. In Lin Feng's opinion, how could the fire god's inheritance be so easy to obtain? If it was so easy to obtain the fire god's inheritance, the fire god's inheritance would have been taken by others long ago and wouldn't have been left until now. Therefore, there was no need to be so anxious. The early bird might not necessarily get the worm to eat. Lin Feng and the other two arrived at the place where the fire god Zhurong fell. They discovered that it was a huge mountain range in the Fire Sea world. The entire mountain range was enveloped in flames. The flames burned fiercely, and the void was distorted. Many cultivators lingered in the surroundings, not daring to rashly enter. The laws of heaven and earth had been changed. The Taotai said in surprise. Lin Feng nodded and said, "Fire-burning heaven and earth is indeed terrifying. It changed the laws of heaven and earth here. It seems that the fire god Zhurong really fell in this place. I'm only concerned about whether we can obtain any opportunities." Wu Xuren said, "Let's wait and see." Lin Feng said, "Since no one is willing to take action, I'll be the one to take the lead." Someone said. Everyone looked over and saw the person who spoke. The person who spoke was majestic and burly. He was at least 3 meters tall and was surrounded by flames. Sacred Flame, Divine Lord. After seeing this expert, many people exclaimed. It seemed that many people recognized the identity of this cultivator. Of course, there were also many people who did not recognize this cultivator. They asked the cultivators beside them, wanting to know the origin of this cultivator. At that moment, a cultivator said, "Hee, that guy is no ordinary person. He's an expert from the Sacred Flame race. You should have heard of them, right? They're a race that was born in flames. They're very powerful and have been passed down to this day. They're quite powerful in the western region of the time reversal world. So it's the Sacred Flame race. The cultivators of this race are born with the ability to control flames. If he enters, he might be able to obtain something amazing." Someone said, "Be careful." An old man who was also surrounded by flames said. There were dozens of cultivators surrounded by flames standing there. They were probably cultivators from the Sacred Flame race. Their auras were deep and powerful. The Sacred Flame Divine Lord said, "Don't worry, nothing will happen." As soon as he finished speaking, he flew toward the mountain range. When he reached the center, he landed in the middle of the mountain range. The flames were still burning fiercely. Everyone was anxiously waiting for news. Some members of the Sacred Flame race had grave expressions. They were quite confident in the Sacred Flame Divine Lord. However, the place that the Sacred Flame Divine Lord had gone to was too terrifying. Therefore, they could not help but be worried about the Sacred Flame Divine Lord. Buzz. About 2 hours later, there was a violent fluctuation in the Flame Mountain Range. Everyone looked toward the Flame Mountain Range. They saw the Sacred Flame Divine Lord soar into the sky. What's that in his hand? When they saw the thing in the Sacred Flame Divine Lord's hand, many people could not help but exclaim, "Genius 1 second." Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 5489. The item in the Sacred Flame Lord of Heaven's hand was actually a treasure shrouded in flames. However, no one knew what the treasure was. It was impossible to see what the treasure was. However, the Sacred Flame Lord of Heaven had already rushed into the sky. Soon, he would be able to fly out. At that time, everyone would know what the treasure in his hand was. The sacred flame, Lord of Heaven's harvest, is too great. It's a pity that I don't have the same means as the sacred flame, Lord of Heaven. Otherwise, I would also enter the mountain range to explore. Perhaps I could also obtain an opportunity. Many people couldn't help but discuss. The cultivators of the sacred flame race cheered. The sacred flame, Lord of Heaven, had obtained an opportunity. Naturally, it was great news for their race. If the opportunity was shocking enough, it could even strengthen the foundation of their race. However, at that moment, something strange happened. Tumbling flames surged from the mountain range to the sky and swept towards the sacred flame, Lord of Heaven. The sacred flame, Lord of Heaven, had a proud expression after obtaining a treasure. But now, the divine flame Lord's expression changed drastically. He flew to a higher place, hoping to avoid the flames that were sweeping towards him. However, the sacred flame, Lord of Heaven, failed. Flames. In an instant, the flames engulfed the sacred flame, Lord of Heaven. Then, the flames swept the sacred flame, Lord of Heaven, into the mountain range. No, the sacred flame, Lord of Heaven's frightened voice came from the mountain range. Many people couldn't help but look at each other. Did the sacred flame, Lord of Heaven, suffer a calamity? What happened just now? Everyone was puzzled. They didn't know what had happened, especially the flames that surged out, swept across the world, and swallowed everything. What was going on? Damn it! The cultivators of the sacred flame race couldn't help but have an ugly expression. The sacred flame, Lord of Heaven, had obtained an opportunity and was about to come out with it. However, in the end, he suffered a calamity. This made the cultivators of the sacred flame race very angry. Their eyes were extremely cold. However, they could only watch helplessly as the sacred flame, Lord of Heaven, suffered a calamity. The place where the fire god Jerome fell is no small matter. It's not that easy to take the things left behind by the fire god Jerome. Someone sighed. Without some special means, I'm afraid it's impossible to obtain the fire god Jerome's inheritance. Another cultivator said. It was indeed as these cultivators had said. The place where fire god Jerome fell was filled with unknown and terrifying dangers, and obtaining the fortune here was simply as difficult as ascending the heavens. But there were still people who wanted to give it a try. This was a cultivator shrouded in sacred light. Heavenly human cultivator. Some people were shocked. The other party's origin was too shocking. He was actually a cultivator from the celestial race. There was an 80% chance that he was from the celestial realm. One should know that the lords of the 33 heavens were basically cultivators from the celestial race or the immortal race. The cultivators of the heavenly human tribe possessed many unimaginable methods. Perhaps the cultivators of the heavenly human tribe could really do it. A holy light barrier formed around the heavenly human tribe cultivator. The holy light barrier protected his body. He quickly flew towards the mountain range. In the blink of an eye, he was engulfed in flames. This is not long after everyone heard a shocked voice coming from the mountain range. It was the voice of that celestial race cultivator. It was unknown what he had discovered in the mountain range that caused him to be so shocked and moved. Could it be that he's going to obtain a fortuitous opportunity? It's obvious that there should be a lot of fortuitous opportunities inside. I just don't know if those fortuitous opportunities are related to the fire god Jerome. If he can obtain the fortuitous opportunity inside, he'll have a meteoric rise. Many cultivators sighed with emotion. They really wanted to enter the mountain range to search for the fortuitous opportunity. But unfortunately, they didn't have the ability to do so. Everyone continued to wait. Although they knew that they couldn't enter the mountain range to search for the fortuitous opportunity, they still wanted to see what kind of fortuitous opportunity that celestial race cultivator could obtain. Some of the major powers even planned to attack the heavenly human tribe cultivators and rob them of their belongings. The celestial race was indeed very powerful, but this was a world where time had reversed. Some cultivators might not necessarily be afraid of the celestial race. No, just as everyone was waiting for the celestial race cultivator to obtain the fortuitous opportunity and come out, the celestial race cultivator's terrified voice suddenly came from the mountain range. Then the voice suddenly stopped. The celestial race cultivator's voice disappeared. Did he die as well? Someone couldn't help but gulp. The celestial race cultivator was such a powerful existence. Yet he had also died. This was too terrifying. What exactly was in the mountain range? Why did two powerful cultivators die one after another? And no one even knew what had happened. Everything was too strange. At this moment, Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. The mountain range where the fire god had died was indeed a little strange. It made one's heart palpitate. Who knew what was going on inside? However, even with such danger, many large factions still didn't give up. They were still bitterly trying to come up with a countermeasure. They didn't want to give up just like that. That was the legacy of the fire god, Zhu Rong. If they could obtain it, the benefits would be unimaginable. If they gave up just like that, they would be very unwilling to give up. Cough, cough. At this moment, a cough was heard. Everyone turned their heads to look. Dozens of cultivators flew over from afar. The one who coughed was an old man. That old man had a white beard and a skinny body. His eyes were also extremely turbid. Obviously, half of that old man's body was already buried in the ground. Moreover, Lin Feng even felt an aura of death from that old man. That old man really wasn't far from death, unless he could find an extremely heaven-defying opportunity to break through again. Or else, he would definitely die. Lin Feng knew this, and that old man must also know this. Therefore, that old man must have come here to look for opportunities. It's Xue Tiankui. I didn't expect him to still be alive. Someone recognized the old man's identity and couldn't help but gasp. What? He's Xue Tiankui? Many people were shocked. This was an extremely powerful existence in the world where time had been turned back. It was almost impossible to cross between regions. However, it was said that Xue Tiankui had crossed all regions. He had traveled all over the world where time had been turned back. Just this point alone showed how terrifying Xue Tiankui was. This person definitely had heaven-defying means. However, it was rumored that he had died a few years ago. Who would have thought that he was still alive? Therefore, when they saw Xue Tiankui arrive, many people were extremely surprised. The mountain range where the fire god fell is filled with danger, but today, this old man wants to experience the dangers inside and see if they can bury this old man. Xue Tiankui's old voice sounded. Please remember the domain name of this book, mobile version of reading website. Chapter 5490. Xue Tiankui's strength was unfathomable, and he was about to enter the mountain range. Many people felt that Xue Tiankui might really be able to bring out some good things from there. Xue Tiankui was too strong, and the two cultivators from before couldn't compare to him. We wish the ancestor a smooth return. The people behind Xue Tiankui said in unison. It seemed that they were very confident in Xue Tiankui. Xue Tiankui nodded. He didn't stay for long. He flew directly towards the mountain range, and soon endless flames tried to devour Xue Tiankui. Open! Shouted Xue Tiankui coldly. With him as the center, a powerful wave of qi was formed, and the qi wave parted the flames that were trying to devour him. Xue Tiankui's method was very powerful, and it caused many people to cry out in surprise. "I've seen this old guy before," said the Tao Tai. Lin Feng looked at the Tao Tai in surprise. "You've seen him before? Does that mean the rumors are true? Did he really go to the time, reversal world?" Said the Tao Tai. "I don't know if the rumors are true, but this old guy really did go to the eastern region. I was still very weak back then, but he was already very strong." Wu Shiren said, "His bloodline might have collapsed, but he's really strong. It's amazing." Lin Feng nodded. Xue Tiankui was really strong. This kind of person's application of the Tao was extraordinary. That was the most terrifying thing about him. At the very least, one had to be a high-level saint for many years to have such abilities. If someone had told Lin Feng that Xue Tiankui was a peak saint back then, Lin Feng wouldn't have found it strange. It was just that Xue Tiankui's qi and blood had collapsed, and his cultivation had fallen. At a critical moment, he could still display great battle strength. Xue Tiankui didn't encounter any danger as he went deeper, but as he went deeper, the rolling flames around him became more and more terrifying. Xue Tiankui frowned. Those flames made him feel that they were a little tricky, but they were just a little troublesome, and they couldn't cause him any harm. Suddenly, Xue Tiankui looked surprised. Through the flames, he seemed to see something special. It was in the depths of the mountain range. Because of the flames, he couldn't see it clearly, but Xue Tiankui knew that it had to be something amazing. Maybe it was the opportunity that he was looking for. Thinking of this, Xue Tiankui, the flames around him became more terrifying, to the point where he almost couldn't resist. At that moment, Xue Tiankui took out a top-grade saint artifact. It was a Buddhist treasure, a Buddha statue. The Buddha statue floated above Xue Tiankui and emitted billions of Buddha light. Those Buddhist lights, Tiankui's qi to protect. What a powerful Buddhist magic treasure. And it's a defensive Buddhist magic treasure. To Xue Tiankui. To able to be to Lin when the powerful flames swept over. They were all blocked by the Buddhist magic treasure. To Xue Tiankui to destroy. Zaido Tian. To him to is to. Be him. Wu Shiren nodded and said, "That's right. His strength is extraordinary, and he has a defensive treasure." It doesn't seem that surprising that he was able to succeed. Lin Feng frowned and said, "Something's wrong. I have the impression that something else is going to happen. Let's wait and see. Something will definitely happen." After hearing Lin Feng's words, everyone couldn't help but feel astonished. An unforeseen event would occur. What kind of unforeseen event would occur? Tiankui asked, "What do you see?" Lin Feng shook his head. "I can't see anything. I just feel that something's not right." "Young man, don't be an alarmist," a middle-aged cultivator said. Lin Feng smiled. He didn't refute the middle-aged cultivator. He hoped that Xue Tiankui would be fine, because there was more than one opportunity. If Xue Tiankui came out unscathed and obtained an opportunity, it meant that he would be fine. Therefore, Lin Feng had been observing the situation. Xue Tiankui sped up. "Ha ha ha ha." Xue Tiankui saw something in the mountain range, and he started laughing. The ancestor really found an opportunity. That's great. The ancestor found an opportunity. It's very important to our family. Yes, I hope the ancestor can live for countless more eras. The Xue family members were excited. Many people couldn't help but purse their lips. These people were too arrogant. They still hoped that the ancestor could live for countless more eras. It was hard to say if they could survive the Armageddon War of this era. Could they not be so confident? Of course. No matter how much they thought about it, they wouldn't say anything. Who would dare to offend the Xue family? Wouldn't that be courting death? Damn it, At that moment, Xue Tiankui's exasperated voice came from the mountain range. Boom! Next, a terrifying fluctuation spread out. It seemed like a great battle had broken out. Everyone was shocked. Xue Tiankui must have fought with an unknown existence. Previously, the Holy Flame Heaven Lord and the Heavenly Human Powerhouse had fallen. It was very likely that they had been attacked by the unknown existence. Many people were suspicious of this. Now, it seemed that it was true. No one knew what the unknown existence was for the time being. That unknown existence was now attacking Xue Tiankui. However, Xue Tiankui was different from the Holy Flame Heaven Lord and the Heavenly Human Powerhouse. Xue Tiankui was too strong. He wasn't killed immediately. The battle between the two sides was extremely intense. Soon, Xue Tiankui rushed out quickly. He was covered in blood. His injuries were not light. Everyone was shocked. Even a powerful existence like Xue Tiankui wasn't a match for the unknown existence. What kind of existence was the unknown existence? Roar. A low roar echoed through the clouds. Then everyone saw a terrifying creature rushing out from the flames. That creature had a huge body and a pair of wings. Looking at its body, it looked like a giant flaming bird. However, it had 3 heads. Moreover, those 3 heads were actually dragon heads. Bird body and dragon head. It's the flaming dragon bird, someone exclaimed. No, that's not the flaming dragon bird. It's the heavenly fire. It's a terrifying heavenly fire. It has transformed into the flaming dragon bird. An old cultivator shouted in a deep voice. At that moment, the flaming dragon bird transformed from the heavenly fire caught up with Xue Tiankui and swallowed him in one gulp. Genius 1 second, remember this site, address. Mobile version, reading website. Chapter 54, 91. Xue Tiankui has been swallowed. Oh my God. Even an expert like Xue Tiankui has been swallowed. What are we still standing there for? Hurry up and run. Go, go, go. Hurry up and leave. If you don't leave now, you're dead for sure. Many people cried out in fear. Seeing an expert like Xue Tiankui being swallowed by the flaming dragon bird formed by the sky fire. How could the rest of the people dare to stay? If they stayed, wouldn't they be courting death? I'm going to eat you all. The flaming dragon bird no longer hid its true thoughts. It rushed forward and began to devour the cultivators. Many cultivators were directly swallowed by the flaming dragon bird. They cried and screamed. The casualties were heavy. Although there was no lack of strong cultivators here, they were still nothing compared to the flaming dragon bird, because the flaming dragon bird was too powerful. Moreover, it almost had an immortal body, which was the most terrifying thing about it. The sky fire was already so heaven-defying. Although it was not truly immortal, it was still 90% immortal. You want to kill the sky fire? Are you daydreaming? After the flaming dragon bird swallowed hundreds of people, it looked at Lin Feng with its cold eyes. It quickly flew towards Lin Feng. You guys go out first. I'll deal with it. Lin Feng said. Tao Tai said, how can that be? Let's do it together. Lin Feng grinned and said, no need. I alone am enough to deal with this guy. If I can't, I can escape by myself. Tao Tai felt that this made sense. He did not stay any longer. He quickly left with Wu Xiuren. As the flaming dragon bird was formed from the sky fire, its perception was extremely strong. Although Lin Feng had concealed the aura of the sky fire, he was still discovered by this guy. It would be strange if he wasn't discovered by this guy. Seeing that the flaming dragon bird had targeted an unlucky person, many people mourned for Lin Feng for 3 seconds, then quickly fled outside. As for the magic treasure of the fire god, the inheritance of the orthodoxy. Who would want it? In the blink of an eye, the large group of cultivators had all fled. Only Lin Feng was left here. Lin Feng didn't run either. Instead, he waited for the flaming dragon bird to come over. Aren't you afraid of me? After the flame dragon bird flew over, it did not immediately attack Lin Feng. Instead, it looked at Lin Feng coldly. Lin Feng said, "If I was afraid of you, would I still be here?" Ha ha ha. The flaming dragon bird suddenly laughed. "Have you lost your mind? What are you laughing at?" Lin Feng rolled his eyes. The flaming dragon looked at Lin Feng with disdain and said, "I'm laughing at you. What a fool. Do you think you can deal with me?" "Sure." Lin Feng nodded and said, "How ignorant! How idiotic!" The flaming dragon bird looked at Lin Feng with disdain. Now it saw Lin Feng as food. Eat Lin Feng. Lin Feng's heavenly fire would also be swallowed by it. The sky fire devoured the sky fire. It would definitely be very nutritious. It would allow the flaming dragon bird to transform into an even more terrifying existence. Just thinking about it made it excited. "Die, brat!" The flaming dragon bird shouted coldly and was about to swallow Lin Feng. "Wait!" At that moment, Lin Feng suddenly waved his hand and shouted. The flaming dragon bird was stunned. It stopped and said coldly, "What? Do you have any last words?" Lin Feng asked, "You've turned into a flaming dragon bird, but I still don't know what your true body is. Which heavenly fire are you among the 72 heavenly fires?" The flaming dragon bird didn't expect Lin Feng to ask such a question. It was actually a little doubtful. This guy was on the verge of death. He actually cared about what heavenly fire it was. Was he stupid? Was he retarded? It didn't look like it. The flaming dragon bird said, "There's no harm in telling you. I'm the 14th heavenly fire, Nirvana heavenly fire." Nirvana heavenly fire. What kind of heavenly fire is that? Does it have any special abilities? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. Lin Feng only knew a portion of the 72 heavenly fires. However, Nirvana heavenly fire's ranking was quite high. It was ranked 14th. A heavenly fire with such a high ranking must be very powerful, right? Nirvana heavenly fire is formed by absorbing the power of nirvana from the universe. You should have some understanding of the power of nirvana, right? It's a terrifying attack power. Therefore, although Nirvana heavenly fire is only ranked 14th, many of the top 10 heavenly fires can't even compare to it in terms of attack power. Oh, it's that powerful? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. "Brat, you can die now." The flaming dragon bird sneered and charged at Lin Feng again. 7 heavenly fires, come out. Lin Feng waved his hand. All 7 heavenly fires flew out. "You actually have 7 heavenly fires." The flaming dragon bird was shocked. This was indeed something to be shocked about. Obtaining 1 heavenly fire was as difficult as ascending to the heavens, let alone 7 heavenly fires. But soon, the flaming draconic bird revealed an excited expression. As far as the flaming dragon bird was concerned, Lin Feng was like a turtle in a jar. Lin Feng would die, without a doubt. How could he fight it? So what if he had 7 heavenly fires? He would still be toyed with to death. "Hee, if I devour you, I'll have 8 heavenly fires. Don't you think that's something to be happy about?" Lin Feng grinned. The flaming dragon bird looked at Lin Feng as if he was an idiot. "Do you think you have the ability to devour me? You're daydreaming. I have 7 heavenly fires, and 2 of them are of a higher level than yours. Devouring you is a piece of cake." Lin Feng pursed his lips. "Idiot, just because your heavenly fires are of a higher level doesn't mean they're powerful. Besides, Your heavenly fires haven't accumulated enough energy yet. How can you fight me? The flaming dragon bird pounced at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's heavenly fires attacked the flaming dragon bird. Bang! Bang! The two sides fought in midair. It was just as the flaming dragon bird had said. Lin Feng's heavenly fires had not accumulated enough energy, so they were no match for the flaming dragon bird formed by the Nirvana heavenly fire. Lin Feng's heavenly fires were suppressed. Ha ha ha, kid, I'll eat you if you defeat my heavenly fires. All these years you've worked so hard to find your heavenly fires, but you've only given them to me. The flaming dragon bird laughed. This guy laughed in an incomparably carefree and arrogant manner. Lin Feng said, "Don't be so arrogant. The show has only just begun." The flaming dragon bird sneered. It naturally thought that Lin Feng was bluffing. At that moment, Lin Feng waved his hand. The Book of the Dead was summoned by Lin Feng. Genius 1, second Remember This Site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 5492. If you can't win in a fight, don't be afraid. The key was to be good at ganging up on others. Ever since the Book of the Dead signed a contract with 40 saint-level undead creatures, Lin Feng found that he had become shameless. It's okay if you can't win. Anyway, I can gang up on you. What? You don't like ganging up on others? Sorry. I like it. What? Ganging up on others is a coward? Wasn't that what a man would do? F***CKU. You must be stupid to say such words. If you can gang up on others, why don't you gang up on others? 40 undead creatures were summoned by Lin Feng. Each one was stronger than the last. The strongest was at the 7th heaven of the Sage Realm. It wasn't the strongest Sage Realm cultivator, but the key was that there were enough undead creatures. In addition, the undead had another characteristic, which was that they could take a beating. The undead's body was often very special and almost difficult to kill. In addition, after these undead signed a contract with the Book of the Dead, even if they were killed, they could be reborn in the Book of the Dead. This was the horror of the Book of the Dead. So, with such an awesome Book of the Dead, he must carry forward the glorious tradition of ganging up on others. Lin Feng's hands changed seals. Dense array patterns intertwined in the void. After Lin Feng obtained the stone scripture, his array skills improved by leaps and bounds, and he mastered many powerful arrays. Now he set up an array in the void and used it to deal with the flaming dragon bird. The array Lin Feng set up was called the Annihilation Heavenly Fire Array. This array was specially used to deal with the heavenly fire, and it was a powerful method recorded in the stone scripture. It was just right to deal with the flaming dragon bird formed by the Nirvana heavenly fire. This kind of large array could set up at least 3 array cores, and at most 36 array cores. However, Lin Feng set up 7 array cores. Each of the 7 heavenly fires guarded 1 array core. In addition, each cluster of heavenly fire would also receive the help of several undead creatures. When the array was successfully condensed, the 40 undead creatures were distributed in the 7 array cores. Heavenly fire return. Lin Feng shouted in a deep voice. The 7 heavenly fires that were fighting with the flaming dragon bird quickly flew toward the 7 array cores. They entered the 7 array cores. However, after the heavenly fire returned to its original position, the power of the formation was immediately revealed. The array emitted a shocking wave of energy that was simply shocking. Every time the ripples spread out, the void seemed to be on the verge of shattering. This was Lin Feng's first time setting up such a formation. 7 heavenly fires and 40 saint-level undead creatures were operating the array together. Lin Feng could only think of one word to describe the power of the current array formation. Awesome. The power of the formation was too awesome. Lin Feng wanted to throw his head back and laugh. The flame draconic bird also noticed that something was wrong. Originally, it looked down on Lin Feng, but Lin Feng knew how to arrange formations. The flame draconic bird was very afraid of the power of formations. Lin Feng also summoned 40 undead creatures. What a pervert! The flaming dragon bird felt that the situation was not good. But after all, he was an existence that had seen many storms and waves. It had some confidence in itself. Kid, do you think you can deal with me by setting up a formation? Then you're wrong. I'll destroy your formation right now, the flame draconic bird said coldly. Then it began to use its powerful techniques. Nirvana heaven and earth. The flame draconic bird's 3 huge heads spewed out a large amount of nirvana power. The nirvana power filled the world. It was as if it covered the sky and covered the sun. Heaven and earth were shattered. Even heaven and earth could be shattered. One could see how powerful it was. Even heaven and earth could be shattered. A mere formation was not worth mentioning. The flame draconic bird thought proudly in its heart. It was waiting for Lin Feng's great formation to be completely destroyed. But at this time, Lin Feng's great formation actually began to devour the nirvana power. In the blink of an eye, all the nirvana power was devoured. What's going on? The flame draconic bird was dumbfounded. Lin Feng said with a smile, "Flame draconic bird, have you heard of the celestial master Tao?" "I've heard of it." The flame draconic bird had heard of the celestial master Tao too much. It's just that it's such an awesome legacy. Then, as if it remembered something, it looked at Lin Feng with a look of horror and said, "Are you the successor of the celestial master Tao?" "I am the 37th successor of the celestial master Tao," said Lin Feng proudly. "Therefore, my deployment spell is extremely powerful. You should stop struggling. If you stop struggling, I can preserve your primordial spirit. Otherwise, I'll destroy your primordial spirit and destroy your soul," said Lin Feng proudly. "Boy, you are too arrogant. So, what if you are from the celestial master Tao? I can still break your great formation." The flame draconic bird said coldly. Then it continued to attack Lin Feng's great formation. It locked onto a position and began to break through, directly hitting the great formation there. Before colliding with the great formation, it turned into the true body of the nirvana heavenly flame. It wanted to break the great formation by force, but it was useless. Lin Feng's great formation was too powerful. It blocked the nirvana heavenly flame's attack. At this time, Lin Feng's great formation began to show its power. All kinds of terrifying attacks were released, bombarding the nirvana heavenly flame. These attacks included the gravitational space, confinement technique, slowing technique, thunderstorm technique, flooding the golden mountain, 9 heavens immortal river, art of annihilation, and so on. There were attacks, suppression, and all kinds of techniques. The nirvana heavenly flame was suppressed too much. Lin Feng's true body was preparing a powerful attack. Lin Feng planned to use the curse technique to deal with the nirvana heavenly flame's soul. It was not easy. He tried many times, but all of them failed. But it didn't matter. He could continue to try. Lin Feng continued to use the curse technique to deal with the nirvana heavenly flame's soul. The stronger the existence, the stronger the resistance. So, the success rate of some of the more strange techniques used on them would be lower and lower. Lin Feng was very clear about this. After using the curse technique dozens of times in succession, finally, the nirvana heavenly flame let out a miserable cry. "It's done. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. After the curse technique injured the Nirvana Heavenly Flame's soul. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame's fighting strength plummeted. The power of Lin Feng's array instantly exploded, reaching its peak. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame was completely suppressed. Lin Feng threw himself at him and used the 8 godly sealing seals. He wanted to seal the Nirvana Heavenly Flame. Countless runes imprinted on the Nirvana Heavenly Flame's body. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame struggled violently, but it couldn't break free at all. I'm not convinced. You won with an unfair advantage. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame roared angrily. Who would pay attention to the roar of a loser? Lin Feng sneered. First, he used the 8 divine seals to seal the Nirvana Heavenly Flame. Because he was not at ease, he used the Great Suppression technique to suppress the Nirvana Heavenly Flame. With the double insurance, Lin Feng was more at ease. After suppressing the Nirvana Heavenly Flame, Lin Feng could finally heave a sigh of relief. End of chapter. Chapter 54, 93. I beg for mercy. I admit defeat. Please spare me. I really don't want to die. You're my ancestor. Okay? Please don't kill me. I can do anything for you, said Lin Feng. Ancestor, please spare my life. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame began to beg for mercy. After hearing the Nirvana Heavenly Flame's begging, Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. This guy had a cocky look before, but in the blink of an eye, it had become like this, making Lin Feng extremely speechless. What happened to that arrogant and insufferably arrogant attitude from before? As expected, dignity was very cheap in front of life. Do you think I'll let you go? Lin Feng looked coldly at the Nirvana Heavenly Flame and said, You won't. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, You know, and you're still begging for mercy? What a waste of breath. Lin Feng sneered. He wanted to destroy the Nirvana Heavenly Flame's fire spirit and then devour it. The energy stored inside the Nirvana Heavenly Flame was very majestic. After refining it, Lin Feng felt that he could continue to break through a few more levels. Just thinking about it made him excited. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, I'm useful. If you don't kill me, you'll be able to obtain many benefits and even learn many secrets. Oh, Lin Feng couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. He said, for example, the Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, I feel a familiar aura from your body. The aura of a curse. I know that you're cursed, and there's more than one curse. I can tell you how to remove the curse. What method? Lin Feng asked in surprise. I can only tell you if you promise not to kill me, the Nirvana Heavenly Flame said. Lin Feng pondered for a moment, then decided to let the Nirvana Heavenly Flame go. Although he really wanted to kill this guy knew many secrets, and it was a pity to kill it. Since that was the case, leaving it alive wasn't a big deal. Moreover, it would be beneficial to him. Lin Feng said, Now swear allegiance to me, and I can spare your life. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame also knew that this was the best result it could get. Although it was unwilling in its heart, it had no other choice but to swear allegiance to Lin Feng to save its life. Thinking of this, the Nirvana Heavenly Flame swore, I, Nirvana Heavenly Flame, hereby swear that I am willing to serve you. If I violate this oath, I will die a horrible death. After the celestial fire of Nirvana made the vow, it had a special connection with Lin Feng. This was a connection formed by the rune. From then on, the celestial fire of Nirvana became Lin Feng's slave. Lin Feng, Nirvana Heavenly Flame, Nirvana Heavenly Flame, Nirvana, Lin, T's Lin Nirvana. Nirvana T, the Nirvana. The first method is that you need to be strong enough to destroy the existence that activated the curse. Lin Feng frowned. That's too difficult. The second method is that there is a cursed sacred stone inside the door of everlasting life. You only need to cultivate there for a period of time, and the curse on your body will naturally be removed. Lin Feng said, "Who knows where the door of everlasting life is?" Then he asked, "Is there a way to remove the curse in the Supreme Divine Court?" The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, "This subordinate really doesn't know." The third method is that if you can gather all 9 of the yin and yang stone tablets, you can also remove the curse on your body. Lin Feng had 2 stone tablets. One was yin and the other was yang, but one of them hadn't been completely repaired yet. As for gathering the 9 yin and 9 yang stone tablets, it was even more difficult than gathering the 36 stone swords. Lin Feng said, "Can't you give me a more reliable method?" "Yes, there is a more reliable method," the Nirvana Heavenly Flame said. "Speak." Lin Feng said the Nirvana Heavenly Flame, "The 10th revolution of the blood meridians can remove all negative effects, and curses are actually a negative effect. In other words, if you can complete the 10th revolution of the blood meridians, you'll be able to remove your curse." This was a feasible way to achieve it. However, Lin Feng's 3 bloodlines were still far from the 10th cycle. Lin Feng still didn't know what the 3rd bloodline was. Even if this method could be realized, it would still take some time. The only fortunate thing was that as Lin Feng's cultivation increased, the curse didn't come to Lin Feng for a while. Or was it preparing an even more terrifying method to deal with Lin Feng? Lin Feng had thought of this before, and he had always been extremely vigilant. "Is there any other method?" Lin Feng asked. "I haven't thought of any for now." The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, "What other secrets do you know?" Lin Feng asked. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, "I know a lot of secrets. For example, there is something on your body that I have seen before." "You can sense the things on my body?" Lin Feng was surprised. "If it was something else, I might not be able to sense it, but the aura of that thing left a deep impression on me, so I can still vaguely remember it." "What is it?" Lin Feng asked. "Mysterious iron box." The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said mysteriously. When this fellow mentioned the mysterious iron box, the flame violently jumped. This meant that it had many misgivings about the mysterious iron box. Lin Feng was shocked. He didn't expect the Nirvana Heavenly Flame to be talking about the mysterious iron box. Lin Feng had many mysterious things on him, such as the demon orb, the ancient devil ring, and so on. But if there was something that was the most mysterious, it had to be the mysterious iron box. None of the items were as mysterious as the mysterious iron box. "You know the origin of the mysterious iron box?" Lin Feng asked. "I don't know." The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, "Damn, if you don't know, then why are you talking about it? You made me happy for nothing." Lin Feng was speechless. "Although I don't know where the mysterious iron box came from, I heard the fire god Zhurong talking to a mysterious strong cultivator about it once. At that time, the mysterious expert took out the mysterious iron box and showed it to Zhurong." The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said. In fact, Lin Feng had already guessed that the Nirvana Heavenly Flame might have followed Zhurong. Now that the Nirvana Heavenly Flame said this, he was sure that the Nirvana Heavenly Flame had followed Zhurong. This was also why the Nirvana Heavenly Flame had appeared at the place where Zhurong had fallen. Lin Feng asked, "What did the fire god Zhurong and the mysterious expert talk about?" Genius 1 second, remember this site address. Mobile version reading website, chapter 5494. They didn't talk much, but I heard them say that the mysterious iron box seemed to be related to a cultivator surnamed Yi. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, "It's related to the cultivator surnamed Yi? That cultivator's name is Yi something?" Lin Feng asked curiously. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, I really don't know what his name is because they didn't say that the cultivator's name was Yi something. They seemed to be filled with fear towards that cultivator, surnamed Yi. Yes, Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. The surname Yi was not a particularly rare surname, and there were many people with the surname Yi. The mysterious iron box was too terrifying. Logically speaking, since the mysterious iron box was related to the cultivator surnamed Yi, then that cultivator surnamed Yi should be very powerful, right? However, in the history of this era, there was no such thing as the Yi clan. This point was still rather strange. In your era, did the Yi clan exist? Asked Yi Feng. Lin Feng looked at the Nirvana Heavenly Flame and asked, that era should be the early part of the era. If the Yi clan existed, they should be from that era, or even before that era. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, no, I more or less know about some of the top forces at that time, but there was no Yi clan. Did you hear wrongly? Lin Feng asked. I definitely didn't hear wrongly. I remember very clearly that when that mysterious expert mentioned the cultivator surnamed Yi, the fire god Zhurong turned pale with fright and signaled that expert not to mention the cultivator surnamed Yi again. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, the fire god Zhurong actually doesn't even dare to mention the cultivator surnamed Yi? This is unbelievable. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. If he hadn't heard the Nirvana Heavenly Flame say these words with his own ears, and the Nirvana Heavenly Flame wouldn't have lied to him. These words, Lin Feng actually wouldn't believe it. And all of this was true. Lin Feng was even more curious about the identity of that cultivator surnamed Yi. What happened after that? Lin Feng asked. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, after that, the mysterious expert put away the mysterious iron box. He didn't stay with fire god Zhurong for too long and quickly left. However, about half a month later, fire god Zhurong received a piece of news. What news? Lin Feng asked. That mysterious expert has fallen. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame said, fallen? An expert who can address fire god Zhurong, as his brother must be at the same level as him, right? Lin Feng said. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame nodded and said, yes, that mysterious cultivator died, and the mysterious iron box disappeared. How terrifying! Lin Feng couldn't help but ponder this matter. He transmitted his voice to the Demon Lord and asked, what do you think of this matter? There's something strange about it. Maybe this thing doesn't belong to this epoch, or maybe it doesn't belong to this universe. The Demon Lord said. Lin Feng nodded. He agreed with the Demon Lord's words. Lin Feng had also thought of this before. It didn't belong to this epoch, or maybe it didn't belong to this universe. Lin Feng said, since we can't figure this out, let's not bother ourselves. I'll devour the heavenly flames to increase my cultivation. Immediately after, Lin Feng devoured the Nirvana Heavenly Flame. Since the fire spirit of the Nirvana Heavenly Flame was still there, it didn't take too long to fuse with it. After refining the Nirvana Heavenly Flame, Lin Feng now had 8 types of heavenly flames. Lin Feng's cultivation level also directly broke through to the 4th layer of the virtual immortal realm. Previously, Lin Feng was at the 1st layer of the virtual immortal realm. Continuous breakthroughs made Lin Feng extremely excited. Lin Feng sent the undead into the Book of the Undead. After collecting the book and the heavenly flames, he flew into the depths of the mountain range. The legacy of the fire god Zhurong was still there. What did the fire god Zhurong leave behind? Lin Feng asked. 3 types of immortal sutras and a few powerful magic treasures. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame replied. Lin Feng couldn't help but reveal a look of joy. The 3 types of immortal sutras were too precious. As for the magic treasures of the fire god Zhurong, they were all top-grade magic treasures. Lin Feng was most interested in the 3 types of immortal sutras and the Scarlet Emperor's sword. There was no need to say more about the immortal sutras. After cultivating them, there were endless uses. Although the Scarlet Emperor's sword wasn't an ancient weapon, it was extremely close to it. Such a precious treasure. It made one's heart palpitate. Lin Feng asked, "Is the Scarlet Emperor's sword still here?" "No." The Nirvana Heavenly Flame replied. Lin Feng's expression turned slightly ugly. A precious treasure, like the Scarlet Emperor's sword, wasn't here. "Where's the Scarlet Emperor's sword?" Lin Feng asked. During the battle back then, the fire god knew that the situation wasn't good. So he gave the Scarlet Emperor's sword to his son and had his son lead his clansmen to break out of the encirclement. The Nirvana Heavenly Flame replied. The fire god's son, Lin Feng, was astonished. "What's his name?" "Mi Tian." The Nirvana Heavenly Flame replied. Lin Feng was sure that this was a name he had never heard before. Perhaps it had already been buried by history. If he couldn't find the Scarlet Emperor's sword, then so be it. In the end, he still had a decent harvest. For example, the fire god's 3 great immortal sutras and some other magic treasures. Lin Feng found the items left behind by the fire god in the depths of the mountain range. The 3 great immortal sutras were engraved on 3 stone steels. Apart from that, he also found a flaming spear and a flaming sword. There were also a few other treasures that had been destroyed. It wasn't the passage of time that had destroyed those treasures. Rather, the battle back then had been too fierce, and those treasures had been destroyed. After obtaining those treasures, Lin Feng flew outside. The fire god Zhurong's life was filled with legends. Lin Feng was also very curious about the fire god Zhurong's past deeds. Lin Feng asked, "How did the fire god Zhurong die?" The Nirvana Heavenly Flame replied, "He was surrounded and killed." "Who besieged them?" Lin Feng asked. "The epic survivors and the otherworldly creatures." The Nirvana Heavenly Flame replied. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. The first fire god was an unparalleled hero, yet he had fallen just like that. It really made one sigh with emotion. Some of the epic survivors and the otherworldly creatures might be good people, but more than 90% of them were definitely not good people. Lin Feng didn't have a good impression of the epic survivors and the otherworldly creatures. If he had the chance, he would definitely destroy them. He's out. The Tao Tai and Wu Shuren were anxiously waiting outside. When they saw Lin Feng fly out, they immediately smiled. Lin Feng also saw them and sped up, meeting up with the Tao Tai and Wu Shuren, who were waiting outside. "How was your harvest?" The Tao Tai asked excitedly. "Not bad. I successfully refined the heavenly flame. Let's find a place. I need to go into seclusion for a while." Lin Feng said, "Okay." The Tao Tai and Wu Shuren nodded. Then, the 3 of them quickly left the endless sea of fire. Genius 1 second, remember this site, address. Mobile version, reading website. Chapter 5495. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. During that half a month, Lin Feng had stabilized his cultivation level. At the same time, Lin Feng had completely familiarized himself with the power of the Nirvana Heavenly Flame. Lin Feng had also comprehended the 3 immortal scriptures passed down by the fire god. Of course, in such a short time, he had only scratched the surface. However, if Lin Feng was given time, he would definitely be able to successfully cultivate the 3 immortal scriptures. Now, Lin Feng wanted to complete his robbery plan with the Tao Tai and Wu Shuren. Whether or not they could go to the Supreme Divine Court depended on whether they could snatch enough teleportation stones. After coming out of seclusion, the three of them first enjoyed a delicious meal, then began to search for other cultivators. What Lin Feng and the other two didn't expect was that they hadn't robbed anyone yet, but they were already targeted by other cultivators. The cultivators who targeted Lin Feng and the other two were from the same force. There were more than 100 people in total, and one of them was a sage, but he was only a great sage. There were 9 levels of the sage realm, and the great sage realm was the 3rd level. It wasn't particularly strong in the sage realm. However, it wasn't weak. However, compared to Lin Feng and the others, it was far too weak. Their only advantage was that they had more people. Hand over the teleportation stones and treasures on you, and then you can scram. The leader of the group was a young man. He looked at the three of them with an indifferent expression and an arrogant attitude. Damn, they have the same idea as us. The Taotai muttered. The Taotai couldn't help but mutter. Lin Feng said, "That's normal. This is a place where people don't even spit out the bones. Whoever is stronger has the final say. Killing people for treasures and robbing others can take more than 3 days and 3 nights. Lin Feng said. Wu Xiren grinned and said, "It seems that this battle is unavoidable." "Damn," Lin Feng said. He immediately rushed towards the young man in the lead. Tao Tai, on the other hand, charged toward the great sage realm expert. Wu Xiren rushed towards the other cultivators. "Are you courting death?" The leading young master shouted angrily. He quickly retreated and wanted to hide in the crowd. But Lin Feng's speed was too fast. In the blink of an eye, he was already beside him. Therefore, it was too late for him to retreat. He had no choice but to counter Lin Feng's punch. Bang! Their fists collided. The leader of the group was sent flying by Lin Feng like a kite with a broken string. Wow! He spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was deathly pale. Lin Feng's punch just now directly took away half of this guy's life. "Young master, are you all right?" A cultivator helped the leading young master and asked with concern, "Are they all dead? Hurry up and kill that brat." The leading young master roared in exasperation. This guy's movements were too big, and it tore open the wound. Wow! He spat out another mouthful of blood. "Kill!" The group of people roared. They quickly charged towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng sneered and rushed into the crowd. A great battle erupted. Half an hour later, the battle ended. Over 100 cultivators knelt on the ground, including the great sage realm expert and the leading young master. They all looked at Lin Feng and the other two in fear. In their hearts, the 3 people in front of them were demons. "Spare me! Spare me!" Everyone was begging for mercy. "We only rob, we don't kill. Hand over the teleportation stone, and we can spare your lives." Lin Feng revealed a smile that he thought was very handsome, but in the eyes of others, his smile was the smile of a demon. Lin Feng asked for the teleportation stone, so these people naturally didn't want to give it to Lin Feng. However, could they not give it to him? Lin Feng said that he wouldn't kill them, so they had to cooperate with Lin Feng. If they didn't cooperate with Lin Feng, they naturally knew what the outcome would be. At this moment, the leading young master and the great sage realm experts' hearts were filled with hatred. When had they ever been humiliated like this? It was a great humiliation, and they were about to go crazy. They decided to cooperate with Lin Feng first. After they escaped, they would find experts to deal with Lin Feng. "Hand it over, we'll hand it over." A ball of holy light flew out from the great sage realm expert's forehead. 2 teleportation stones were wrapped in the holy light. Damn, they really know how to hide things. Lin Feng was speechless. he put away the 2 teleportation stones and asked, "Are there any more?" "I dare to swear to the heavens that there are no more. We only got 2 teleportation stones," the great sage realm cultivator said. Tao Tai said, "This guy should have a lot of good things in his storage ring. We can plunder his storage ring." Of course. Lin Feng grinned. The group's faces turned green. After ransacking their storage rings, Yi Zichen took a deep breath. Lin Feng and the other 2 left. "Damn it, my treasures were all stolen by those 3 bastards." After the leading young master stood up, he immediately roared in exasperation. His life's savings, all kinds of good things that he had obtained through trickery, he had put them all in his storage ring, and now they were all gone. And he, in the blink of an eye, he had become a pauper. He was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He was so angry that he wanted to die. The rest of the people were not much better. All of them were gnashing their teeth. They wished that they could eat Lin Feng and the other 2's flesh and drink Lin Feng and the other 2's blood. This was especially true for that great sage expert. This person's cultivation was powerful, and his status was respected. It had always been smooth sailing, especially after he became a great sage realm expert. He was high and mighty. Now he had fallen to such a state and lost all his face. This made him gnash his teeth in hatred. Let's go. Let's go find the Supreme Elder and the others. If the Supreme Elder and the others take action, these guys are nothing to be afraid of. The great sage realm cultivator said, "All right, let's go find the Supreme Elder and the others now." The young master in the lead said fiercely. The group of people didn't stop and quickly left to look for the Supreme Elder of their power. P.S. Speaking of which, the corpse of the mysterious iron box was surnamed Yi. Many fans who read the new book knew that the main character's surname was Yi. Then, they asked the old steamed bun in the group if the corpse of the mysterious iron box was Yi Xian's. I'll explain it here. The corpse of the mysterious iron box wasn't the new main character, Yi Xian, but it was the Yi Xian clans. Lin Feng was in the 9 provinces universe of the 4 great universes. The new main character, Yi Xian, was in the Kunlun universe, one of the 4 great universes. Moreover, Yi Xian's era was far earlier than Lin Feng's era. In Yi Xian's era, the ancestor of the sovereign realm was still a young man. In this era, the immeasurable Taoist was still a handsome young man who cultivated hard to prove himself. Actually, this handsome young man was the previous life of the immeasurable Taoist. So, the new book is very exciting. Everyone, please take a look at the new book, Devouring the Heavens. Genius 1 second, remember this site address. Mobile version reading website, chapter 5496. Lin Feng had 12 pieces. Including the 5 pieces from Wu Xiuren, he had 17 pieces. Adding these 2 pieces, he had 19 teleportation stones. Lin Feng and the others needed 64 teleportation stones to set up the teleportation array. In that case, Lin Feng and the others still needed 45 teleportation stones. Tao Tai said, "Why don't we get rid of those guys? Wouldn't that solve the problem once and for all?" Lin Feng said, "If we get rid of them, who will inform the experts behind them?" Tao Tai said, "Damn, you even want to rob the experts behind them? Who knows how terrifying the experts behind these guys are? If we can't defeat them, then we'll be out of luck." Lin Feng said, "Wealth comes from danger. Moreover, even if we can't defeat those guys, we can still escape. It would be even better if we could deal with those guys. Those guys are very strong, so they might have more teleportation stones on them." That's true. Tao Tai grinned. In the following period of time, Lin Feng and the other 2 transformed into pirates. They began to rob other cultivators. A large number of cultivators had been robbed by Lin Feng, and the other two, Lin Feng and the other two's reputation became more and more resounding. The trio was even given a nickname by others. It was called the Man-Beast combo. The reason why they were given this nickname was because Tao Tai had transformed into his original appearance. The Man-Beast combo was naturally not a nice name. The cultivators who had been robbed by Lin Feng and the other two hated the three of them to the core. Many people joined forces to denounce Lin Feng and the other two. However, those people were unable to find Lin Feng and the other two. The three of them appeared and disappeared mysteriously. It was not an easy task to find them. On this day, Lin Feng and the other two heard a piece of news. It was said that someone had found a place where a cultivator had died. That place was enveloped by a powerful restriction. One could vaguely see some teleportation stones scattered on the ground. It was said that there were no less than 10 teleportation stones in total. After receiving this news, Lin Feng and the others couldn't help but be shocked. Lin Feng and the other two had only been robbing for slightly more than a month. He had only obtained 7 teleportation stones. That was the place where the cultivator had fallen. There were so many teleportation stones. If this news was true, it was indeed worth a visit. I wonder if it's a trap set up by those forces to lure us over. If we go over rashly, they will definitely catch us like a turtle in a jar. Tao Tai said. The thing that Tao Tai was worried about was actually very reasonable. Who knew what was going on over there? Lin Feng replied, disguise yourself and secretly investigate. The three of them all knew the art of transformation. After investigating for a while, they found that this matter was true. They arrived at the place where the cultivator had died. That place was in a valley. The restriction in the valley should have existed for a long time. Inside the valley were the corpses of 2 cultivators. One of them was holding a treasured sword, while the other was holding a war spear. Lin Feng looked at the situation at the scene and roughly guessed what had happened back then. Back then, this place was enveloped by a terrifying restriction. 2 powerful cultivators discovered that there were teleportation stones here at the same time. Thus, they took the risk and entered the valley. In order to compete for the teleportation stones, the 2 of them fought. The cultivator with the war spear stabbed the cultivator with the treasured sword to death first. The spear-wielding cultivator originally thought that his opponent was truly dead, but who would have thought that his opponent was not truly dead and still had a single breath of life left? He managed to deceive the spear-wielding cultivator by deceiving him. While the cultivator with the war spear was collecting the teleportation stones, the cultivator with the treasured sword sneak attacked the cultivator with the war spear from behind, piercing through the chest of the cultivator with the war spear. As a result, the 2 of them died one after another. Due to the terrifying restriction in the valley, although there were many cultivators here, no one acted rashly. You guys go outside and wait for me. I'll go inside and take out those teleportation stones. Lin Feng said, no problem, be careful. The 2 of them reminded him. Okay. Lin Feng nodded. Tao Tai and Wu Shuren flew outside. Lin Feng continued flying towards the palace. He activated the stone scripture. The stone scripture released a special kind of energy that enveloped Lin Feng's body. This kind of energy could pass through any restriction without being attacked by them. This was the terrifying part of the stone scripture. Look, someone can't hold back and is about to make a move. Seeing Lin Feng fly towards the valley, a cultivator exclaimed, a young human cultivator, he's simply courting death. Someone said disdainfully, the Sage Realm experts did not make a move because they were afraid of the restriction in the valley. Lin Feng, a young human cultivator, making a move was no different from courting death. However, some people could not help but frown slightly. They felt that things were not so simple. No one who had cultivated to this realm was a fool. Since Lin Feng dared to make a move, he must have some special tricks up his sleeve. However, it was hard to say what kind of tricks he had. What if those tricks could withstand the attack of the restriction? Was there such a possibility? Thinking about it carefully, there was indeed such a possibility. Therefore, some people began to secretly prepare. If Lin Feng succeeded, they would immediately make a move to kill Lin Feng and take the stone spear that Lin Feng had obtained. Whoosh! At this moment, Lin Feng rushed into the valley. How is this possible? Many people exclaimed. The cultivators who thought that Lin Feng was courting death almost had their eyes pop out. As for the cultivators who thought that Lin Feng had some special tricks up his sleeves, they were dumbfounded. The restriction in the valley was so powerful. Even if Lin Feng had some special tricks up his sleeves, it was impossible for him to completely ignore the restriction in the valley. But what was the truth? Lin Feng really did completely ignore the restriction in the valley. It was really strange. Looking at such a strange situation, the corners of everyone's mouths could not help but twitch violently. The stone scripture is really awesome. Lin Feng could not help but grin. He successfully arrived at the center of the valley. Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised to find that there were a total of 13 teleportation stones here. He had already obtained 24 teleportation stones here. Counting these 13 teleportation stones, that would be 37 teleportation stones. There were 27 teleportation stones left to collect 64 teleportation stones. Many people's eyes widened when they saw that Lin Feng had obtained 13 teleportation stones. They could not wait to snatch the 13 teleportation stones immediately. After Lin Feng put away the teleportation stones, he did not leave immediately. Instead, he looked at the storage rings on the hands of the two experts who had died. Lin Feng smiled and walked towards the two experts who had died. Genius 1 second, remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 5497. The restriction in the valley was so strong, but the two cultivators were still able to fight in the valley. This was enough to show how strong the two of them were. There were definitely good things in the storage rings they left behind. Lin Feng was actually looking forward to the Immortal Sutra the most. If only he could collect the Immortal Sutra. Lin Feng was now extremely obsessed with collecting Immortal Sutras. Lin Feng quickly came to the two corpses of the experts. Lin Feng gently touched their corpses. Suddenly, their corpses directly disintegrated. After a long time, their corpses had long been destroyed. It was just that a strand of divine power prevented their corpses from disintegrating. But now, perhaps it was because of the touch. So, that strand of divine power had disappeared. This was also the main reason why the two corpses disintegrated. However, the two storage rings were not destroyed yet. Lin Feng put away the two storage rings and the two magic treasures, then rushed outside. As soon as he arrived outside, a large number of cultivators had already surrounded him. There were at least 50 to 60 forces here. Now that everyone was jealous of Lin Feng's teleportation stone, they naturally would not let Lin Feng go. You are despicable. You are shameless. Dozens of forces are bullying me. If you have the ability, fight me one-on-one. Lin Feng shouted loudly. Many people's faces were gloomy. These big forces still had some face. Some of them did not want to do this, but for the teleportation stone, they had no choice. However, there were also some big forces that did not care about this at all. Obtaining benefits was the most important thing to them. Kid, hand over the item and we can spare your life. An old man said. Someone recognized the old man's identity. That old man's origin was frightening. He was one of the sovereigns in the southern region of the time, reversal world. Beside him was a young female cultivator. That female cultivator was wearing a long white dress that outlined her charming figure perfectly. She was wearing a veil, so her specific appearance could not be seen clearly. However, her skin was white and could be described as creamy. One could imagine that she was definitely a peerless beauty. The woman's identity was actually quite extraordinary as well. She was the descendant of the elder, and her talent was exceptionally heaven-defying. She was the saintess of the southern region. Ancestor, there's something wrong with that boy. Let me use the demon revealing mirror to check him out. The woman said, The old man nodded. The woman took out a demon revealing mirror. With Lin Feng's current strength, an ordinary demon revealing mirror would have no effect on him. However, this woman's demon revealing mirror was very different. When the light from the demon revealing mirror shone on Lin Feng's body, the demon revealing mirror shone on him. Lin Feng's body instantly returned to his original appearance. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile bitterly. This was not a good thing, because Lin Feng found that many people here had been robbed by him. F***CK. It's actually that brat. The heavens have eyes. We actually managed to catch this brat. Ha 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 ha, so it's him. I finally found him, shouted many people when they recognized Lin Feng. They were so excited that they started shouting. They were so excited that their bodies were trembling. Who is that brat? Why does he seem like a public enemy? Some people didn't recognize Lin Feng and asked curiously. That brat is one of the guys in the human-beast combo. He's very likely their leader. Someone said, What? It's actually him. Many cultivators immediately cried out in alarm. The combination of man and beast was like thunder to anyone's ears. This was because too many people had been robbed by the human-beast combo. Many experts had heard the news and gone to surround the human-beast combo. It was said that the human-beast combo had beaten them up miserably. However, those experts didn't say anything about what had happened back then. They couldn't afford to lose face like this. Say, is there some kind of misunderstanding between us? Lin Feng asked. Misunderstanding my ass. Many people started cursing. Everyone, I advise you to be kind. Lin Feng continued. F***CK. Why are you so thick-skinned? Why didn't you tell yourself to be kind when you robbed us? Someone retorted. Lin Feng said, Ask yourselves honestly, which one of you hasn't robbed others before? The surroundings fell silent. The world of cultivators had always been like this. The strong could do whatever they wanted. Everyone had done the same thing before. There was nothing wrong with admitting it. Lin Feng continued, The reason I robbed you is because I want you to be the victims and experience what it feels like to have all the treasures you've painstakingly accumulated stolen. Once you've experienced this, you won't casually rob others. This is a way of accumulating good karma. You'll be able to benefit your future generations. Moreover, if you don't rob others, you won't kick an iron plate. Who knows when you'll kick an iron plate and die? So, I robbed you for your own good. After hearing Lin Feng's words, many people had a dumbfounded expression on their faces. This guy, he could be shameless, but he couldn't be so shameless. You're really shameless. You're really shameless. Your skin is thicker than the walls of the heavenly palace, right? It's really hard to imagine how there can be someone as shameless as you. Many people loudly criticized Lin Feng. Something's wrong. That brat is deliberately stalling for time. Hurry up and deal with him. He wants to run. At this moment, the holy maiden from the southern region exclaimed. She had sensed Lin Feng's concealment method. Even her ancestor hadn't sensed it, but she had sensed it. This holy maiden was really extraordinary. Lin Feng couldn't help but glare fiercely at the holy maiden from the southern region. You talk too much. Have I robbed you before? Do you really want to be robbed by me? When I'm free, I'll definitely rob you. Just you wait, Lin Feng said fiercely in his heart. Attack! Boom, boom, boom. Many people attacked, attacks that blotted out the sky and covered the earth-bombarded Lin Feng. No matter what, they couldn't let Lin Feng escape. Even if they had to directly kill Lin Feng, they couldn't let Lin Feng escape. Faced with so many attacks, Lin Feng naturally wouldn't choose to face them head-on. That would be an act of suicide. And Lin Feng didn't need to face them head-on. At the critical moment, he had condensed a space-time gate. A space-time gate appeared in front of Lin Feng, and Lin Feng entered it. He disappeared in an instant. When those terrifying attacks came crashing down, the gate of time and space also disappeared. A space-time gate. That's a good technique, but the space-time gate he condensed is only a short-distance gate. He can't run far. Everyone, chase. We'll definitely catch up to him. The supreme being old man from the southern region shouted in a deep voice. His divine will seem to have locked onto Lin Feng. The old man directly teleported and chased after Lin Feng. Genius 1, second, remember this site address. Mobile version, reading website. Chapter 5498. Lin Feng didn't meet up with Tao Tai and Wu Xuren because he realized that there were experts chasing after him. Lin Feng soon found out who was chasing after him. It was none other than the old man from the southern region, one of the sovereigns of the southern region. That old thing was very strong. Since he could be a sovereign of a region, Lin Feng guessed that he should be at the peak of the sage realm. Even though Lin Feng had 40 saints with him, he didn't have enough strength. However, the strongest undead here were only at the 7th level of the sage realm. The gap between them and this old man was too big. Therefore, Lin Feng didn't plan to fight to the death with this old man. That was simply courting death. After Lin Feng flew out of the void, the old man flew out. He sneered and said, "Young man, you are very capable. Even I admire you. However, I'm afraid you won't be able to escape today. I have no enmity with you, and I don't want to kill you. I'm only here to ask for the teleportation stone. If you know what's good for you, give it to me, and you can leave on your own. If you don't know what's good for you, you'll have to bear the consequences." Lin Feng said, "You're really shameless. How old have you been? You're still chasing after me? Aren't you afraid that people will laugh their heads off if this gets out?" The old man said, "I don't care what others say." Lin Feng pursed his lips, but he was even more afraid of the old man now. Sometimes cultivators who cared about their reputation wouldn't be feared even if they were strong, because those who wanted to save face didn't want to do such a thing. For example, chasing after Lin Feng. What kind of person was the most feared? The most troublesome? It was people like this old man. He wasn't just strong. He was also thick-skinned. Being targeted by such an old thing was really a terrible thing. Lin Feng admitted that he was unlucky. Lin Feng continued to run, and the old man continued to chase. It wasn't easy to catch up to Lin Feng. Lin Feng's speed was indeed too fast. The old man was a little depressed. With his cultivation, logically speaking, wouldn't it be easy for him to catch up to Lin Feng? After chasing for so long, he still couldn't catch up to Lin Feng. The old man couldn't help but blow his beard and glare. "Who is that holy maiden to you?" Lin Feng asked. The old man was slightly stunned. He didn't know why Lin Feng mentioned her at this time. However, the old man didn't hide anything and said, "She's my granddaughter from the 9th generation." "Oh, you've passed it down for so many generations. Old man, your family must be very powerful." Lin Feng said. The old man's face darkened. Someone actually dared to call him an old man. This made the old man extremely angry. Before Lin Feng, no one had ever dared to be so impudent to him. However, today, Lin Feng actually dared to call him an old man. Right now, the old man really wanted to catch Lin Feng and ruthlessly teach him a lesson. Seeing Lin Feng's pitiful appearance and begging for mercy, only then would he be able to vent the hatred in his heart. Young man, you're talking too much. Remember one thing, trouble comes from the mouth. That's a very reasonable saying, said Lin Feng. The old man said coldly. Lin Feng didn't talk about this topic with the old man. He said, I think that the Holy Maiden's figure is really good. The old man's face darkened even more. Lin Feng said to himself, she's also very beautiful. That face, those facial features, that skin, and that figure, she must be a goddess that countless cultivators yearn for, right? The old man still didn't say anything. As an elder, he naturally couldn't comment on his descendants' looks or figure, right? Wouldn't that make him shameless? So it was better to shut up. Lin Feng said, so I don't have any grudges with you, and I didn't rob you. But today, you provoked me. First, it was that woman, and then it was you. If I don't do anything, it will seem like I'm afraid. What do you want to do? The old man asked warily. Lin Feng said, it's very simple. I want to capture the holy maiden of your family and turn her from a fairy who keeps her chastity to a beautiful young woman. I'll kill you. The old man was quite angry at Lin Feng's words, and he gritted his teeth as he looked at Lin Feng. Normally speaking, people of such high status wouldn't speak so vulgarly and shamelessly. However, Lin Feng overturned his thoughts. This kid, truly shameless, truly despicable, truly shameless. Kitchen, sofa, bath, bedside, table. Lin Feng said with a smile, shut up, shut up. The old man looked at Lin Feng angrily. He rarely got angry, but today he was so angry at Lin Feng that his entire body was trembling. Lin Feng said, why are you so angry? Did I say anything? This old man has roamed the heavens for so many years, but I've never seen someone as shameless as you. The old man said fiercely. Lin Feng ignored the old man and continued, whips, candles, chains, ropes. This old man will tear you to pieces. Hearing Lin Feng's words, the old man became even angrier. F***ck, I'm very pure, okay? You're the one who's thinking the wrong way. Now, it seems that you weren't a good person when you were young. Lin Feng mocked. This old man was 1,000 times better than you when he was young. The old man said angrily. In the end, the chase ended with Lin Feng successfully shaking off the old man. However, Lin Feng was also very tired. This was because the old man's speed was really too fast. In fact, it was mainly because the old man's realm was too high, and he was not very good at speed. With his realm, if he was good at speed, he would definitely be able to catch up to Lin Feng. The next day after shaking off the old man, Lin Feng, Tao Tai, and Wu Shuren met up. After seeing Lin Feng, Tao Tai said with a smile, right now, countless forces are looking for you. They said that they'll skin you alive after they catch you. Lin Feng said, I didn't expect everyone to love me so much. F***ck, why does this sound so awkward? How should I understand it? Tao Tai asked. Lin Feng said, the deeper the hatred, the deeper the love. Tao Tai and Wu Shuren couldn't help but roll their eyes. Lin Feng said, let's go and find the southern region's holy maiden. I must catch this woman. Wu Shuren said, this woman is not simple. Lin Feng said, I know, but don't worry. As long as she's not with that old man, we'll definitely be able to catch her when the time comes. Hee, what do you plan to do after you catch her? Tao Tai asked with a grin. Wu Shuren said, it should be good to use her to exchange for a teleportation stone. That must be your plan, right? I really don't think so. After I catch her, I'll do it to her 100 times, 100 times. Lin Feng said seriously. Please remember the domain name of this book, mobile version of reading website. Chapter 5499. The Tao Tai said, Damn, you're just bragging. 100 times? Why don't you go to the heavens? Lin Feng said, You can't do it, but that doesn't mean I can't. I'm very capable. Wu Xuren said, You're not serious, are you? That woman is the saintess of the southern region. She's pure and innocent. If you really dare to touch her, I'm sure you'll become the public enemy of the southern region. Countless cultivators there will hunt you down. Lin Feng said, Don't be afraid. She'll fall deeply in love with me when she becomes a young woman. Then she'll cry and beg me to take her. That's called love. Shameless. The Tao Tai pursed its lips. So shameless. Wu Xuren was speechless. There were still many opportunities in the ancient battlefield. Over the past few days, a shocking piece of news had spread. It was said that Panga's orthodoxy had appeared in the southwestern region of the ancient battlefield. Pangu was one of the greatest existences in this epoch. No one knew how powerful Panga's legacy was. If one could obtain Panga's orthodoxy, it would be heaven-defying. Many people had been searching for Lin Feng's whereabouts, but after hearing about Panga's orthodoxy, they stopped paying attention to Lin Feng and went in search of Panga's orthodoxy. The saintess of the southern region also went in search of Panga's orthodoxy. She was called Meng Ji Yao. Her clan, the Meng clan, was an ancient clan from the celestial world. Meng Ji Yao hadn't met up with the ancestor yet. Was the ancestor still searching for Lin Feng? He had found some opportunities. That was why he hadn't met up with Meng Ji Yao. Of course, Meng Ji Yao's cultivation was strong enough, and she had great treasures. Ordinary people wouldn't dare have any ideas about her, and she had many experts by her side. The Meng clan's group flew in the southwest direction. They were passing through a huge mountain range. Meng Ji Yao suddenly said, Something's wrong. Everyone, stop. Meng Ji Yao was young, but her methods were heaven-defying. Everyone trusted her words. They stopped quickly. Meng Ji Yao stretched out her hand and gently tapped the air in front of her. Suddenly, all kinds of runes intertwined. He could vaguely see that the front was covered by a large formation. If they continued to fly forward, they would enter the Great Array. At that time, he would become a turtle in someone else's jar. Fortunately, he was discovered in advance. The cultivators of the Meng family were naturally incomparably angry. They were one of the overlords of the southern region. Who would dare to provoke the Meng clan? But today, someone dared to scheme against the Meng clan. They were courting death. A powerhouse of the Meng family shouted coldly, Who? Get your ass out here and die. Why is your mouth so smelly? At this moment, a sneer was heard. Everyone looked over and saw a Tao Tai flying out. It's a combination of man and beast. It must be that brat. At this time, someone spoke up. When they saw Tao Tai, they thought of the human-beast combination. When they thought of the human-beast combination, they thought of Lin Feng. Previously, they had been searching for Lin Feng's whereabouts everywhere, but he hadn't gained anything. He had almost been plotted against by Lin Feng. This made them extremely angry. Wu Xuren also flew out from behind a mountain. He stood in the air and coldly looked at the cultivators of the Meng family. Although Wu Xuren was a swindler all year round, his methods were still quite formidable. Otherwise, he would have been killed countless times already. Lin Feng also flew out. He smiled at the Meng family and said, Welcome to hell, everyone. Brat, you're bragging too much. An expert of the Meng family sneered. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. I'm not the kind of person who likes to brag. Hee hee, many people sneered. Naturally, they didn't believe Lin Feng. They looked at Lin Feng with disdain. Meng Jiyao asked, "Why are you here?" "I'm here for you." Lin Feng said. "You came for me?" Meng Jiyao was surprised. "Of course." Lin Feng nodded seriously and said, "I want to catch you and do it 100 times. Meng Jiyao was a pure woman, so she didn't understand what Lin Feng meant by 100 times, 100 times. But there were so many people in the Meng family, and there were too many shameless people. Those people naturally knew what Lin Feng meant when he said 100 times. They immediately cursed, "Brat, you're shameless." Meng Jiyao was pure, but she wasn't stupid. On the contrary, she was very smart. Meng Jiyao saw that the others were filled with righteous indignation. Meng Jiyao immediately understood what Lin Feng meant. Her pretty face couldn't help but become a little unsightly. Meng Jiyao said coldly, "You shouldn't have come here, and you shouldn't have provoked me." She walked step by step towards Lin Feng. Obviously, Meng Jiyao was a little angry, so she wanted to take the initiative to attack Lin Feng. "I'll take care of this girl." Tao Tai laughed loudly and clawed at Meng Jiyao. Meng Jiyao suddenly waved her sleeve. Bang! An invisible force collided with Tao Tai's attack. Tao Tai was immediately sent flying. "Shit! So strong!" Tao Tai exclaimed. Tao Tai was now at the second layer of the Saint Plane. Tao Tai was very talented. It could even fight against cultivators at the third layer of the Saint Plane. But it couldn't even take one attack from Meng Jiyao. It was obvious how terrifying she was. Lin Feng couldn't help but think of the Holy Maiden of the Eastern region. Those holy maidens were really terrifying. If you say something wrong or do something wrong, you'll have to pay the price. Meng Jiyao looked coldly at Lin Feng. This brat has angered the Holy Maiden. He's dead. Let's see how he'll die. The cultivators of the Meng family all sneered. In their opinion, Lin Feng was going to die. They knew how terrifying the Holy Maiden was. Although the combination of human and beast was really strong, it depended on who they were compared to. Against the Holy Maiden, they weren't on the same level at all. Lin Feng said, "I'll say the same thing to you. You're about to die, and you still dare to be arrogant? I'll send you to hell right now." Meng Jiyao's eyes were cold. She sped up and rushed towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng waved his hand, and the Book of the Dead flew out. Then 40 saint-level undead creatures flew out at once. The undead creatures emitted a suffocating and terrifying aura. 40 holy undead. The expressions of the Meng family members changed drastically. Meng Jiyao's pupils shrank, and she quickly retreated. End of chapter. Chapter 5500. The deterrent power of 40 Sage Realm undead spirits was simply too great. Meng Jiyao was very strong, but he wanted her to block the attacks of 40 undead saints. It was also an extremely unrealistic thing. Meng Jiyao's face became very ugly. Lin Feng's method. She was indeed shocked. As for Meng Jiyao's clansmen, they were completely terrified. It seems that the news about the inheritance of Panga's orthodoxy is fake. Meng Jiyao said coldly. "You're very smart," said Lin Feng. Meng Jiyao said, "It's not that I'm smart. It's just that you don't know where I am, and it's not easy to find me. That's why you spread false information about Panga's system to lure me here." "Indeed, you guessed correctly. I thought you'd be trapped in the deployment spell, so it would be much easier to deal with you. I hadn't thought that you'd be so extraordinary. You discovered my deployment spell in advance. If you hadn't, you would have died already or been suppressed by my deployment spell." Lin Feng said indifferently, "Do you really want to make things difficult for me?" think about the consequences of becoming enemies with the Meng family. Meng Jiao said coldly, "Hee, are you threatening me? If I was afraid of your family, I wouldn't have attacked. Since I chose to attack, it means that I'm not afraid of your family." Lin Feng waved his hand, and 40 undead saints quickly attacked. "What do we do now?" a strong cultivator of the Meng family asked. "Break out," Meng Jiao said. Boom, boom, boom. At that moment, all kinds of terrifying attacks were coming. The cultivators of the Meng family had to block the attacks of the undead. Lin Feng was wearing the ruler's armor. He held the phoenix shield in his left hand and the epic war spear in his right. "I know your cultivation is good, but compared to me, you're still far from it." Meng Jiao sneered and took out the demon, revealing mirror she used before. That mirror was not as simple as a demon-revealing mirror. It was a supreme treasure with extremely terrifying power. A terrifying light beam shot out from the mirror. The void was instantly shattered. What a terrifying power! Lin Feng looked surprised. That mirror probably had an extraordinary background. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so powerful. But Lin Feng wasn't afraid. His god's armor and phoenix shield were incredible treasures. Just one of them was already extremely powerful, not to mention two of them at the same time. It was simply unimaginable how strong the defensive power of two supreme treasures would be when activated at the same time. Bang! That light beam ruthlessly slammed into the phoenix shield. The phoenix shield absorbed a part of the terrifying power. The ruler's armor also absorbed a part. About 20 to 30% of the remaining strength was neutralized by Lin Feng. Meng Jiao's eyes narrowed after seeing this. She knew how powerful her treasures were, but Lin Feng had managed to neutralize them. This was going to be troublesome. Meng Jiao knew that Lin Feng had two powerful defensive treasures. It would be extremely difficult to break through Lin Feng's defense. If she couldn't even break through Lin Feng's defense, how could she fight this battle? So, Meng Jiao didn't intend to continue fighting with Lin Feng. She turned and ran outside. As for the others, they could only pray for their own fortune. Meng Jiao couldn't be blamed for being ruthless. She really didn't have the extra power to protect the others. Meng Jiao wanted to leave, but Lin Feng didn't intend to let her go. He swept out the arrow war spear in his hand. A terrifying cold light instantly condensed and swept towards Meng Jiao. Meng Jiao's face became extremely ugly. After feeling the power of the terrifying attack, Meng Jiao had no choice but to stop and block. The demon-revealing mirror in her hand shot out a light beam, which collided with the cold light Lin Feng, slashed out. The attacks of the two sides were annihilated, but at this time, Lin Feng had already killed his way over. At the same time, more than a dozen of the most powerful undead creatures surrounded them. Lin Feng knew that Meng Jiao's cultivation was high, and her attack power was particularly terrifying. So, even if Lin Feng had two powerful defensive treasures, he still wouldn't be careless when dealing with Meng Jiao. Lin Feng and more than a dozen powerful undead creatures besieged Meng Jiao. "Despicable," Meng Jiao said angrily. 100 times, 100 times. Lin Feng said with a smile. Hearing Lin Feng's shameless words, Meng Jiao's delicate body trembled with anger. But Meng Jiao didn't dare to hesitate. She quickly condensed a powerful divine ability. A lotus flower appeared. Meng Jiao sat cross-legged on the lotus flower. Lotus! It meant holiness. So many Buddhist experts liked to refine lotus flowers into supreme treasures. Sitting cross-legged on the lotus flower, holy and otherworldly, subduing all evil. Although the lotus flower under Meng Jiao was a manifestation of divine ability. However, that lotus flower, it was still incomparably extraordinary. Holy light curled around it, holy and otherworldly. Endless holy light spread out in all directions. The holy light sprinkled on the undead creatures. The bodies of the undead creatures began to burn. Damn, this woman is so vicious. She wants to burn my undead creatures to death. Seeing the undead creatures shrieking again and again, Lin Feng couldn't help but feel gloomy. Lin Feng hurriedly used a divine ability to dissolve Meng Jiyao's attack. I control the Tao of Fate. I say that the undead can become gods. I say that the undead will no longer fear the darkness. When the undead are no longer evil, they will represent justice and fight against evil. Lin Feng stretched out his hand. Powerful destiny energy poured out in an endless stream. The power of fate enveloped the bodies of the undead. When these undead bodies were enveloped by the power of fate, the undead began to tremble. The holy light was immediately blocked outside. The undead creatures' bodies were no longer burning. Not good. Meng Jiyao's expression changed dramatically. She turned and fled, but Lin Feng stopped her. Lin Feng joined forces with a group of undead creatures. He was fighting against Meng Jiyao. Although Meng Jiyao was powerful, her ability to restrain the undead had been dissolved by Lin Feng. No matter how powerful she was, facing Lin Feng and a dozen other powerful undead creatures, she was having a hard time. Lin Feng seized a rare opportunity and sent Meng Jiyao flying with a palm. Meng Jiyao's face became extremely pale. Lin Feng quickly flew towards Meng Jiyao and used the 8 seals. Countless runes imprinted themselves on Meng Jiyao's body. Meng Jiyao was instantly sealed by Lin Feng. Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 55:01. Spare us. Spare us. We don't want to die. Please, I beg you, spare our lives. I can give you all my treasures. As long as you spare me, I'll do anything. Even if I have to be an ox or a horse, I'll do it. In the Meng clan, many people screamed and begged for mercy. However, Lin Feng didn't intend to let them go. I came from hell. Those who offended me should be killed. Those who wanted to kill me should be killed. These people deserve to die. The feast of slaughter was in progress. Perhaps because she was used to seeing death, Meng Jiyao looked at everything indifferently, until the last cultivator of the Meng clan fell. Meng Jiyao didn't beg for mercy. Tao Tai and Wu Xiuren went to collect the storage rings of the dead cultivators. Lin Feng looked at Meng Jiyao and said, I thought you would beg for mercy for them, but you didn't. I'm quite surprised. Meng Jiyao said, Is it useful for me to beg for mercy for them? It's useless. Lin Feng grinned. So, if it's useless, why would I do something like this? Meng Jiyao said. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. This woman, she was really a meticulous and ruthless woman. Moreover, after being suppressed, she had only panicked for a short while. Now, she had calmed down. Lin Feng hated it when she was still so calm when being suppressed. You're just a prisoner, you know that? Since you're a prisoner, you should have the awareness of a prisoner. I've finished collecting the items. Tao Tai said. Lin Feng nodded. He put the soul into the Book of Dead Souls and put it away. Lin Feng looked at Meng Jiyao and smiled. Let's go, we'll go 100 times. Lin Feng put Meng Jiyao on his shoulder. Then they quickly flew into the distance. Tao Tai and Wu Xiuren followed closely behind. After Lin Feng and the others left, only then did the cultivators in the distance dare to fly out from their hiding places. These people looked at the corpses on the ground, and their complexions became very pale. The dead were the experts of the Meng clan. Who would dare to offend an overlord-level clan in the southern region? But now, the Meng lost so many experts, and their saintess Meng Jiyao was taken away. If this news were to spread out, one could imagine. It would definitely cause a huge uproar. The further north they flew, the colder the weather became. However, Lin Feng had a feeling that it was not due to the weather. It was very likely that the laws had changed the surrounding climate. Additionally, it was the laws of cultivators. Lin Feng guessed that perhaps a top-notch expert had fallen here. Well, Wu Xiuren and I have some things to discuss. You guys go ahead. While resting in a mountain forest, Tao Tai grinned. He left with Wu Xiuren. I believe that there is room for negotiation in everything, including the grudges between us. Do you think my words make sense? Meng Jiyao said. Yes, that makes sense. Lin Feng nodded. So, what will it take for you to let me go? Meng Jiyao said. A teleportation stone? I can give it to you. Lin Feng said. Now that you are my prisoner, your things are mine, including the teleportation stone on you. Sorry, I don't have a teleportation stone on me, so your idea of getting one from me will fall through. Meng Jiyao said. Lin Feng said, whether you have one or not, I'll know after I search you. Lin Feng said, while sizing up Meng Jiyao's charming body. Lin Feng stretched out his hand and pretended to search Meng Jiyao's body. Meng Jiyao's pretty face suddenly became panicked. Lin Feng sneered in his heart. Didn't you say that you were very calm? Now, why did you look so panicked? Lin Feng hated to see Meng Jiyao's calm expression. He liked to see Meng Jiyao's panicked expression. Lin Feng was someone who was determined to be the great demon king. Don't search my body. I can tell you everything. Meng Jiyao begged for mercy. For example, what do you want to tell me? Lin Feng narrowed his eyes and looked at Meng Jiyao. Meng Jiyao said, the teleportation stone is with the ancestor. The ancestor will definitely be willing to use it in exchange for my freedom. Lin Feng sneered and said, that's not what I want to hear. I want to hear some secrets. And they are useful secrets. If they are useless to me, I advise you not to tell me. Meng Jiyao said, you were able to ignore the formation and enter the valley. If I'm not wrong, you must be from the Celestial Masters sect. Lin Feng was surprised. This woman was not simple. She was actually able to guess that he was from the Celestial Masters sect. But Lin Feng didn't say anything. He wanted to hear what she had to say. Meng Jiyao continued, that valley's restrictive spells were too terrifying. Even if you were from the Celestial Master sect, you shouldn't have been able to ignore those restrictive spells, but you were able to do so. That means you must have obtained the Celestial Master sect's holy relic, because only a Celestial Master who has the Celestial Master sect's holy relic can borrow the power of the Celestial Master's sect to ignore those restrictive spells. Also, I sense something on your body. I think the mirror of the future is on you. Lin Feng said indifferently, how did you sense it? Meng Jiyao said, because my mirror is made from the same materials as the mirror of the future, I can sense some of the mirror of the future's aura. Actually, whether it's the mirror of the past, the mirror of the present, or the mirror of the future, they're all divided into yin and yang mirrors. I don't know which mirror of the future you have, but I can sense the state of the mirror of the future. Your mirror of the future should be sealed, right? So what if it is? Asked Lin Feng. The stone can open the seal on the mirror of the future, said Meng Jiyao. Lin Feng said indifferently, I know, so I don't need you to remind me. You've said so much, but there's very little that's actually useful to me. I'm even starting to suspect that you're deliberately stalling for time. Whatever. I've decided to do you 100 times first, 100 times, and then I'll extract the secrets from you. No. Meng Jiyao's face turned pale. She hastily said, I can give you something. That thing might be able to help you enter the divine court. Genius 1 second, remember this site, address. Mobile version, reading website. Chapter 5502. Lin Feng knew that it wasn't easy to join the Supreme Divine Court. Back in the days, his father had been able to join the Supreme Divine Court because he had defeated all the heroes of the world. He was the only one who had been able to join the Supreme Divine Court. Lin Feng had also heard that each time the Supreme Divine Court opened, only one person was allowed to enter. Nobody else was allowed to enter. Of course, if one was lucky enough, they might be able to enter the Supreme Celestial Court with the help of these opportunities. The first thing to do was to teleport to the Divine Court. The second thing to do was to find the opportunity to enter the Divine Court. As for whether or not one would be able to find it, that was hard to say. But now, Meng Jiyao had said that she had something that could help them enter the Divine Court. Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised at first, but he soon became suspicious. Would this woman hand over the item so obediently? Why did it sound so unbelievable? It was no wonder Lin Feng was suspicious of Meng Jiyao. Meng Jiyao was simply too suspicious. Lin Feng calmly asked, "What is this thing you're talking about?" Meng Jiyao said, "It's a very special piece of jade. It's called the Peerless Jade. It's a special token. When you bring it to the Peerless Divine Court, you can sense it. Once you sense it, you'll have a chance to enter the Peerless Divine Court." Lin Feng said, "So you're saying that it's impossible to be completely certain of entering the Divine Court?" Meng Jiyao said, "Of course it's impossible. That's the Divine Court we're talking about. No one would dare to pat their chest and say that they'll definitely be able to enter the Divine Court. It's pure nonsense." Lin Feng said, "Do you think I can believe your words?" Meng Jiyao said, "I can swear that it's really a token to enter the Divine Court. Moreover, it can really help a cultivator enter the Divine Court. If I'm lying to you, I'll die a horrible death." Meng Jiyao's oath was very serious. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel conflicted. Meng Jiyao didn't look like she was lying to him. Moreover, no one would swear on their life because oaths were very effective. The world of cultivators had always been like this. There was always a god watching over everything. Oaths couldn't be made casually. They were restricted by the heavenly Tao. Lin Feng said, "Hand it over." "Okay." Meng Jiyao nodded. Although her magic power was sealed, she could still communicate with her spatial ring. The item could still be taken out. Meng Jiyao took out the item she mentioned. Lin Feng looked at the talisman and realized that there was something strange about it. It was a kind of black jade talisman. There were many mysterious runes engraved on it, and each rune was emitting a terrifying wave of energy. When Lin Feng saw those mysterious talismans, he was astonished. He didn't know what those talismans were. At that moment, Lin Feng suddenly sensed an ice-cold qi coming from the depths of the forest. The cold aura quickly dissipated. Lin Feng found it very strange. If it weren't for his powerful perception, he wouldn't have been able to sense it. Lin Feng put the jade talisman away. He planned to go deeper. Lin Feng really wanted to see what it was that was releasing such a cold and gloomy qi. Lin Feng put Meng Jiyao on his shoulder and flew deeper. Meng Jiyao thought that Lin Feng was going to do something to her. She was so scared that her face turned pale. She began to struggle and say, "I've already given you the item. You can't go back on your word." Lin Feng slapped Meng Jiyao's perky buttocks, causing her to tear up in pain. "You bastard!" Meng Jiyao cursed. "Shut up. If you keep talking, do you believe that I won't execute you on the spot?" Lin Feng said fiercely. Meng Jiyao hurriedly shut up when she heard Lin Feng's threat. She didn't dare to frown at Lin Feng at a time like this. Lin Feng carried Meng Jiyao and flew deeper. Lin Feng felt the temperature drop rapidly. Soon, he saw a crack in the ground. A chilling aura kept drifting out from the underground fissure. It leads underground. Lin Feng couldn't help but wonder. He observed the entrance. It was pitch black down there, and he couldn't see anything. Meng Jiyao said, "Let me go. I'm begging you, let me go." "Oh, even a woman like you knows how to beg," Lin Feng teased. "Of course I do. I'm just a weak woman. I know that you're actually a kind-hearted person. Please be merciful and let me go." Meng Jiyao continued to beg. Lin Feng wouldn't let her go just because she was begging. Lin Feng patted Meng Jiyao's head and said, "I'll let you go when the time comes, but not now." Meng Jiyao gnashed her teeth. Lin Feng had really taken advantage of her, but now she was Lin Feng's prisoner. She wanted to resist, but she couldn't. This made Meng Jiyao very depressed. She felt extremely depressed. Lin Feng carried Meng Jiyao and flew down the crack. The lower they went, the lower the temperature became. But for someone at Lin Feng's level, it was nothing. He kept going down. The bottom became wider and wider. Lin Feng saw many huge ice pillars. Below, it was a world of ice. A world of ice sealed in ice. What is this place? Meng Jiyao couldn't help but feel puzzled because she saw some ice sculptures. They were very lifelike. They had been immortal for billions of years. After landing below, Lin Feng unlocked a part of Meng Jiyao's seal. Thus, Meng Jiyao could move now. They walked towards the nearest ice sculpture. This is, after arriving next to the ice sculpture, Lin Feng's face showed a surprised expression. Meng Jiyao was also very surprised, because there was a cultivator sealed inside the ice sculpture. Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao originally thought that this was a man-made ice sculpture. But now, it seemed that wasn't the case. In fact, someone had been sealed in ice. As time passed, he finally turned into an ice sculpture. The rest of the ice sculptures, it should be the same situation. Lin Feng tried to break the ice outside. Clang! A sword chi slashed out. That sword chi slashed the ice sculpture. The ice sculpture shattered. The corpse sealed in the ice sculpture turned into ashes when it came into contact with the air outside. What's going on? Lin Feng couldn't help but feel puzzled. Genius 1 second, remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 55:03. The corpses had turned to dust. How strange. However, Lin Feng saw a storage ring. He picked it up and scanned it with his divine sense. Lin Feng was speechless. The storage ring had been damaged. This wasn't good news at all. He threw the storage ring on the ground. Lin Feng walked towards the second ice sculpture. Meng Jiyao had lost her magic power, so she didn't dare to lose track of him. Otherwise, who knew what terrible things would happen? Perhaps an extremely terrifying existence would suddenly appear and eat her up. That would be terrible. Meng Jiyao followed Lin Feng to the second ice sculpture. Lin Feng used his heavenly fire to slowly melt the ice outside the second ice sculpture. As time passed, the ice continued to melt. Finally, the ice completely melted, but when the second corpse came into contact with the air outside, it turned to dust just like the first one. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. Lin Feng picked up the storage ring and scanned it with his divine sense. It was the same as the first one. The second storage ring was also damaged. It probably has something to do with the ice. They can't see the air outside. Meng Jiyao said. What this little girl said was quite reasonable. Lin Feng walked towards the third ice sculpture. When he reached it, he didn't melt it. It would be useless anyway. Lin Feng observed it for a moment, frowned, and continued walking. What are you looking at? Meng Jiyao asked. I'm looking at the expressions of the cultivators inside the ice sculptures. Lin Feng said. Meng Jiyao looked at the cultivator inside the ice sculpture and said, he has a terrified expression. Lin Feng nodded. Yes, he has a terrified expression. I've seen the ice sculptures before. They all looked terrified. Apart from being terrified, their faces were all facing the same direction. In other words, they seemed to be running away, and then they were suddenly frozen. We'll know if that's the case after observing more of them, said Lin Feng. Then, the two of them observed some ice sculptures. Sure enough, they found that the situation was just as Lin Feng said. These frozen cultivators were all running away with a terrified expression. Is that true? What does that mean? Meng Jiyao muttered. Lin Feng said, this means that there must be something in the depths that they can't fight against. That's why they chose to escape, but they couldn't. Meng Jiyao said, these people's clothes are extremely ancient. I don't know how long they've been sealed. Even if there's something inside, it should have left long ago. I'm not sure about that. We can go in and take a look. Maybe we'll find something special, Lin Feng said. Meng Jiyao couldn't help but smile. Lin Feng said, don't forget your status. You're still my prisoner. Any treasure is mine. It has nothing to do with you. Meng Jiyao smiled wryly when she heard Lin Feng say that. She felt helpless that she had fallen into Lin Feng's hands. She didn't want to be cursed 100 times by Lin Feng. That was the silver lining of misfortune. She still wanted to get more opportunities. That was a fool's dream. Lin Feng carefully walked inside. Meng Jiyao followed behind Lin Feng. They walked for about an hour in the world under the ice. Lin Feng saw a huge palace. It was a pitch-black palace. Countless years had passed, but the palace was still emitting an incomparably demonic power. Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao were shocked when they saw the palace. It's not a demon palace. It seems to be an ice palace, but it's been invaded by demon power. Meng Jiyao said, is that so? Lin Feng was surprised. Meng Jiyao, this woman, was really extraordinary. She could sense things that many people couldn't. For example, she could sense the Black Palace now. Lin Feng couldn't sense it. However, Meng Jiyao still sensed it when her magic power was sealed. What an unimaginable ability. If it's really like what you said, then the demon power that invaded this place back then was too terrifying. Lin Feng said, that's right. Meng Jiyao said. The two of them walked towards the main hall. They came to the side of the main hall. The plaque of the main hall was still there. Ice Palace. There were 4 words written on the plaque of the main hall. Dragons flew and phoenixes danced, riding like dragons and snakes. But now, these 4 words were also eroded by the power of the demon. When Lin Feng saw those words, he suddenly thought of a celestial being wearing snow-white clothes and looking as cold as the moon. Perhaps the person who lived in the ice palace should be such a peerless fairy. Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao pushed open the door of the ice palace and entered. Just as they entered, there was a rumbling sound. The door closed. How strange. Meng Jiyao's expression became ugly. She said in a low voice, the situation doesn't seem right. Hurry up and undo my seal. If there's any danger, we can face it together. Lin Feng said, I can deal with any danger by myself. Sooner or later, I'll be killed by you. Meng Jiyao couldn't help but stomp her foot. She really did feel a dangerous aura. Although she didn't know what kind of danger it was, that feeling made Meng Jiyao very uncomfortable. With her magic power sealed, her fate was no longer in her own hands. Meng Jiyao trusted herself the most. If there was danger, She could resist it. She trusted that Lin Feng would protect her. They had a hostile relationship. If they were in danger, who knew if Lin Feng wouldn't push her out to protect them? Meng Jiyao was naturally very worried about this, but there were some things that wouldn't go according to your wishes, even if you were worried. Lin Feng said, "Don't worry, I won't trick you. We haven't done it 100 times yet. How could I bear to let you die? That would be too much of a pity." At that moment, Lin Feng was surprisingly still able to say something like that. Meng Jiyao was speechless. She wanted to stomp Lin Feng to death, but she could only endure it for now. They walked inside. The Holy Palace of Ice was clearly divided into many halls. The first hall was very spacious. There was nothing here. They passed through the first hall and then came to a deep corridor. The two of them entered the corridor. They could clearly hear their own footsteps echoing in the corridor. Meng Jiyao looked behind her. "What are you looking at?" Lin Feng asked curiously. "Please remember the domain name of this book, Ice Palace. Mobile version, Chapter 5504. Why do I feel like there's something following us?" Meng Jiyao's voice trembled as she leaned towards Lin Feng. She had no choice but to lean towards Lin Feng. Her magic power was sealed, so if there was any danger, she would have to rely on Lin Feng to deal with it. Thus, when she sensed that something was wrong, she could only try her best to get closer to Lin Feng. If she was too far away, who knew if something terrible would happen? This was all very possible, and Meng Jiyao didn't want to die. Even if Lin Feng took advantage of her, it was still better than dying, right? Lin Feng didn't notice Meng Jiyao's actions. When he heard Meng Jiyao's words, his expression became serious. Lin Feng didn't think that Meng Jiyao would speak without thinking. Especially at a time like this, Meng Jiyao wouldn't say anything inappropriate. She must have sensed something. Meng Jiyao's perception was extremely powerful. She could indeed sense things that even he couldn't sense. However, Lin Feng couldn't sense anything. The corridor gave off a very strange feeling, so it was better to leave as soon as possible. Lin Feng said, "Let's speed up a bit." Meng Jiyao nodded. The two quickly walked forward. Meng Jiyao hugged one of Lin Feng's arms. "Damn! Female pervert!" Lin Feng shouted, "I'm a pervert! Your head!" Meng Jiyao was very speechless. She didn't want to hug Lin Feng's arm. However, with her magic power sealed, hugging Lin Feng's arm gave her a sense of security. Just like that, even if danger came. Lin Feng couldn't just leave her behind, right? Tell me honestly, do you really want to do it 100 times with me? I know, because you're a woman, so you're embarrassed to say it, and then you're using some special methods to hint at me. Lin Feng smiled at Meng Jiyao. Heavens! How can there be such a shameless person in this world? Meng Jiyao wailed in her mind. If possible, she really wanted to teach Lin Feng a lesson. Meng Jiyao even thought of a way to torture Lin Feng. She would capture Lin Feng and then find many beautiful women to dance in front of him. You can only watch. Meng Jiyao felt that this method was really quite good. She secretly praised herself for being a genius. If he could really capture Lin Feng, then he would deal with Lin Feng like this. Thinking of this, Meng Jiyao smiled. Answer with a smile. "Don't worry. When we get out of this broken palace, I'll fulfill your wish." Lin Feng said, "Please don't. I really didn't mean that." Meng Jiyao was about to cry. Lin Feng said, "To explain is to cover up, and to cover up is to tell the truth. I know what you're thinking." Meng Jiyao was about to be angered to death by Lin Feng. Meeting such a shameless person like Lin Feng made her so angry that her heart, liver, spleen, and lungs hurt. "I'll endure. I'll endure. I'll endure." Meng Jiyao told herself that a little impatience would spoil great plans, so she decided to endure for now. The two of them successfully walked through the corridor and entered the second palace. After arriving here, Lin Feng saw that there were many corpses here. Perhaps it was because of the cold weather, but after countless years, the corpses still hadn't decayed. The corpses here were all women's corpses. Moreover, they were all extremely beautiful women. However, their clothes were disheveled, and their eyes were filled with terror. They had died with their eyes wide open. Who knew what they had experienced when they were alive? They couldn't have been violated, right? After being violated, they were killed. Meng Jiyao frowned. She was quite concerned about this kind of thing. Women were usually very concerned about this kind of thing, except for a few women. Lin Feng said, "I don't think so, because they didn't show any signs of struggle. I just don't know what happened back then." He carefully examined each of the corpses, then said, "They don't have any injuries at all, but they died with disheveled clothes. How strange. That feeling has appeared again." Meng Jiyao said. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. Meng Jiyao's meaning was very clear. Something was watching the two of them, but Lin Feng found it strange that he hadn't been able to find out where it was hiding. This was a bit troublesome. If he couldn't sense its existence, how could he make it appear? "I have to think of a way to make it appear." Meng Jiyao's red lips parted slightly. She didn't make a sound, but Lin Feng knew what her lips meant. How could he make it appear? Would Buddhist treasures work? Lin Feng decided to give it a try. He summoned the ancient Buddha skeleton. Namo Amitabha. The ancient Buddha skeleton was activated by Lin Feng. Then he clasped his hands together, and a Buddhist light surged out from the ancient Buddha skeleton's body. The second palace was covered by the Buddhist light. Screech! A sharp, ear-piercing cry was heard. An evil existence appeared. This existence was wearing a black robe, and its eyes were extremely evil. Its black robe was stained with blood, and it blocked the corrosion of the Buddhist light. In God! When he saw this existence, Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. This was an In God, but not an ordinary one. If it was an ordinary In God, it would be impossible to hide from Lin Feng's senses. Ordinary In Gods didn't have thoughts, but this one did. It could be seen from the flickering light in its eyes. "You do have some tricks." The In God's voice was cold, hoarse, and sinister. "What a terrifying In God. Hurry up and release my seal. I'll help you deal with this In God." Meng Jiyao said. Lin Feng rolled his eyes. At this time, she was still thinking about releasing the seal. She even said the reason in such a dignified manner. "Do you think I'll believe you?" Lin Feng naturally didn't believe that Meng Jiyao would help him. If he really undid the seal on her, this woman would definitely run away at the first opportunity. Lin Feng didn't want to let Meng Jiyao go. It wasn't easy to catch her. How could he let her go so easily? Lin Feng said, "Don't worry, I can deal with this In God alone. I want to eat your soul and then take over your body. This way, I can break free from the imprisonment of the demon palace." The In God's hoarse voice sounded out, and then it quickly pounced towards Lin Feng. "Kill!" Lin Feng took out 36 bamboo swords and slashed towards the In God. The aura of the 36 bamboo swords was extremely terrifying, and they were specially used to restrain these In Gods. The 36 bamboo swords were as fast as lightning as they slashed towards the In God. A demonic saber appeared in the In God's hand. He waved the demonic saber in his hand, and it collided with Lin Feng's 36 bamboo swords. Look at those female corpses. At this time, Meng Jiyao couldn't help but exclaim. Chapter 55:05. Hearing Meng Jiyao's exclamation, Lin Feng hurriedly turned his head to look. He immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. He saw that the female corpses had actually opened their eyes, and then their bodies slowly floated up. Before, although they were corpses, they still gave people the impression that they were very beautiful. But now they had changed. Now their eyes had turned scarlet, and their bodies had lost all luster. Their hair had even turned black, and their ears, noses, and mouths were all bleeding. Their tongues were sticking out. Their tongues were 1/2 meter long. Their nails were also rapidly growing, and in the blink of an eye, they had grown to nearly 1 meter long. In addition, these female corpses were emitting a disgusting stench. It was really too disgusting. These female corpses had all transformed. Lin Feng didn't know what had caused the female corpses to mutate, but after they had mutated, they looked extremely evil. A group of female corpses also pounced on Lin Feng and Meng Ji Yao. "Hurry up and undo my seal, I can help you." Meng Ji Yao continued. This little girl still didn't give up and still wanted Lin Feng to undo her seal. Lin Feng said, "Protecting women is what a man should do." As his voice fell, Lin Feng summoned the Book of the Undead. At this moment, it was a great opportunity to collect these undead. Lin Feng felt that these female corpses weren't simple. Perhaps they weren't that strong when they were alive, but after countless years of death, they had changed. These female corpses had all undergone special changes, so their current strength was many times stronger than before. Lin Feng wasn't interested in ordinary undead creatures, but the female corpses had aroused Lin Feng's interest. After all, they were really powerful. Lin Feng checked a total of 15 female corpses. Although he didn't know what level they were, Lin Feng felt that their cultivation should have reached the saint realm. Undead creatures of this level were qualified to be collected by Lin Feng in the Book of the Undead. After the Book of the Undead was summoned, Yen appeared. As the Book of the Undead devoured a large number of undead, Yen's strength greatly increased. Facing the 15 female corpses that were charging at him, Yan's voice echoed throughout the hall. "You lowly undead, kneel down and repent for your crimes to my great master, Lin Feng. Then submit to the great master. That's the only way to wash away the sins you've committed all these years." After Yan's voice fell, a large amount of undead energy surged out of the Book of the Dead. The power of the dead enveloped the 15 female corpses. Roar. The female corpses began to struggle and let out deep roars. What surprised Lin Feng was that the undead energy surging out of the Book of the Dead wasn't able to subdue the female corpses. Instead, the undead energy was being devoured by the female corpse. The female corpse devoured the power of the undead. The female corpse's aura continued to increase, and the undead energy suppression on the female corpse became weaker and weaker. This scene shocked Lin Feng. The undead energy had actually become a supplement for the female corpses. It wasn't that the undead energy wasn't strong enough, but that these female corpses were too strange. "Yen, use your ultimate move," Lin Feng said in a deep voice. Now that he was dealing with the most powerful Lin god, he couldn't make any mistakes with the group of female corpses. Otherwise, there would be a big problem. Lin Feng didn't want to die tragically under the attacks of the female corpses. "Yes," Yen hurriedly replied. Lin Feng didn't seem too happy, so Yen didn't dare to be negligent. Yen shot out rays of death light. The rays of death light poured into the Book of the Dead. Many of the runes on the Book of the Dead were awakened at this moment. Those runes, they were emitting waves of terrifying fluctuations. Each rune was mysterious and unfathomable. The Book of the Dead was rapidly growing in size. Then, the 15 female corpses were enveloped in it. Whoosh! A thick beam of light shot out from the inside of the Book of the Dead. That thick beam of light enveloped all the female corpses. Moreover, the runes danced in the beam of light. Those runes flew towards the female corpses. Then they imprinted themselves on the female corpses. Roar. The female corpses seemed to be in great pain. They kept roaring and struggling. The runes had a great effect on the female corpses. In the end, the female corpses gave up struggling. Their expressions became serene. Submit, lowly undead creatures. Yan's voice sounded again. We are willing to submit. The 15 female corpses said at the same time. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Then the 15 female corpses were collected by the Book of the Dead. Meng Ji Yao was completely dumbfounded when she saw this scene. Those terrifying 15 female corpses were subdued just like that. In other words, Lin Feng suddenly had 15 Sage Realm subordinates. Wasn't this too abnormal? That Book of the Dead was too terrifying, wasn't it? It really made people envious. Meng Ji Yao had always felt that she was a person with many fortuitous encounters. She had encountered all kinds of great opportunities. She had never been jealous of anyone, but now she was too jealous of Lin Feng. She really wanted to snatch Lin Feng's Book of the Dead and take it for herself. At this time, Yen controlled the Book of the Dead to fly towards the Yin God. He wanted to help Lin Feng deal with the Yin God. Strictly speaking, the Yin God was naturally a type of undead creature. As long as it was an undead creature, it would be restrained by the Book of the Dead. Therefore, the Yin God could also be absorbed into the Book of the Dead. However, this Yin God was indeed powerful. Lin Feng's 36 bamboo swords could restrain the Yin God, but they couldn't take it down. But after Yen joined in, the situation was different. The Book of the Dead flew above the Yin God and shot out a beam of light, enveloping the Yin God. At the same time, Lin Feng's 36 bamboo swords also launched a fierce attack on the Yin God. The Yin God was besieged, and the situation was not good, especially those runes that flew out from the Book of the Dead and entered the Yin God's body. The Yin God's power was greatly weakened. Finally, the Yin God was sealed by Lin Feng with the 8 God-forbidding seals. Let go of me, the Yin God roared angrily and began to struggle. Crack, crack. Lin Feng's sealing runes began to break. Lin Feng said in a deep voice, Yen, quickly subdue the Yin God. Yen knew that the Yin God was not easy to deal with, so he personally flew to the Yin God's side and slapped the Yin God's head 3 times. Bang, bang, bang. The 3 slaps landed. In an instant, the Yin God stopped struggling. Master. Then the Yin God kowtowed to Lin Feng. This terrifying Yin God was also subdued. Chapter 55:06. In the blink of an eye, Lin Feng had subdued 16 terrifying existences. Meng Ji Yao didn't know what to say anymore, other than smiling bitterly, being envious and jealous. What else could she think? The Yin God has its own thoughts, so we can ask it some questions. Meng Ji Yao said. Lin Feng nodded. He did have some questions that he wanted to ask the Yin God. Lin Feng said, Get up and talk. Yes, master. The Yin God hurriedly replied. It then got up. Lin Feng asked, Who were you when you were alive? The Yin God sighed and said, I'm sorry, master. I can't remember who I was when I was alive. My memories have basically been lost. It was common for the Yin God to lose their memories. Therefore, it wasn't a pity to encounter such a situation. Since the Yin God had lost his memories, some things from his previous life, Lin Feng didn't intend to ask, because even if he did, he wouldn't be able to get anything out of it. Since that was the case, why waste time? What else is there inside? Lin Feng asked. He was most concerned about the things inside, but Lin Feng didn't know what exactly was inside. Perhaps the Yin God would know. The Yin God smiled bitterly and said, Master, I really don't know what's inside because I've been imprisoned and can only wander between the first and second palaces. Is the female corpse the same? She can only wander between the first and second palaces? Lin Feng asked curiously. That's right. The Yin god nodded. Lin Feng was a little disappointed because he wouldn't be able to get much useful information from the Yin god. Lin Feng let the Yin god return to the Book of the Dead. He put away the Book of the Dead. Meng Jiyao looked into the depths and said, I feel that there's a great danger waiting for us inside, so let's leave. There's no need to continue taking risks. If we continue, we might really die inside. We don't lack opportunities, so there's no need to put ourselves in danger. After hearing Meng Jiyao's words, Lin Feng just smiled inwardly. Meng Jiyao's words were indeed quite reasonable. However, Lin Feng didn't intend to leave. It was understandable that Meng Jiyao didn't want to go in. After all, she didn't want to put herself in danger and not get any benefits at the same time. However, it wasn't the time for her to make such a decision. Lin Feng said, the more dangerous the place, the more extraordinary opportunities are waiting for us. 1. I already have 56 Sage level undead. Of course, the most importantly, my Book of the Dead be able to restrain the undead, so there's no need to worry. Let's go. Let's continue looking for opportunities. Hearing Lin Feng's words, Meng Jiyao really had the impulse to slap Lin Feng to death. That's your opportunity, okay? What does it have to do with me? I'm taking a great risk to go in with you, but I won't get anything. I still have to worry about you 100 times. My heart is really tired. However, there's a saying that life is like rape. Since you can't resist, you can slowly enjoy it. Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao continued to walk inside. Then, Meng Jiyao once again hugged Lin Feng's arm. Meng Jiyao was worthy of being called a top-grade beauty. The body fragrance from her body was very pleasant. Their footsteps echoed in the corridor. Fortunately, there was no danger, and they successfully entered the third hall. When they arrived at the third hall, Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao couldn't help but frown slightly. They saw several cultivator corpses here. These cultivator corpses were quite special. They were all cut in half at the waist. Then their internal organs, even their intestines, were dug out and casually thrown on the ground. It was really too bloody. Even though Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao were very experienced and knowledgeable, after seeing this scene, they couldn't help but feel nauseous. Who did this? How can it be so bloody? Lin Feng frowned. Unless there's a deep hatred, there's no need to do this to other people's corpses, right? Meng Jiyao said. Lin Feng felt that Meng Jiyao's words made sense. Lin Feng thought of the nature of this hall. It was originally a sacred palace, but it had turned into a demon palace. Lin Feng said, could it be that demon's doing? Perhaps it's possible. Meng Jiyao said, if this speculation is correct, then what happened back then? Why did that demon go so crazy? Lin Feng couldn't help but wonder. Meng Jiyao said, isn't this hall called the Sacred Palace of Ice? Judging from the name, the master of this hall should be a woman, right? Could it be that the demon's courtship failed, so it killed everyone here? Perhaps it's possible. The answer might very well be in the deeper parts of this hall. Lin Feng said. He and Meng Jiyao walked deeper inside. This time, Lin Feng put his arm around Meng Jiyao's waist. This small waist, it really was the waist of an ant. It was so small that it could be grasped with one hand. Let go of me. Meng Jiyao blushed and struggled gently. Lin Feng said, aren't you holding my arm because you're worried that I'll push you out when there's danger? I'm holding your waist right now. It's to make you feel at ease. Even if there's danger, I won't push you out. Meng Jiyao felt that Lin Feng's words weren't trustworthy at all. They were just excuses to take advantage of her. However, she had already endured so many things. So what if she endured a bit more? Besides, she really did need Lin Feng's protection right now. So Meng Ji Yao didn't say anything. Lin Feng was overjoyed. As expected of a top-grade beauty, the feeling of holding her in his arms was really different. Lin Feng and Meng Ji Yao arrived at the fourth hall. When they arrived, they saw a headless corpse. Lin Feng and Meng Ji Yao continued to walk deeper. After passing through the corridor, they arrived at the fifth hall. This was the last hall. In the fifth hall, they saw a white jade bed. What surprised Lin Feng and Meng Ji Yao was that there was a woman lying on the white jade bed. It was a woman wearing a white dress. Her figure was so graceful and enchanting. Her face was so beautiful and moving. She was so beautiful that it was suffocating. She was lying there like a sleeping beauty. However, the truth was that the woman was no longer breathing. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website, Chapter 5508. That woman. Meng Ji Yao looked at the beautiful woman and couldn't help but frown. Lin Feng asked, "What's wrong? Do you see something strange about her?" Meng Ji Yao said, "That woman isn't as pretty as me, and her figure isn't as good as mine." Uffed. Lin Feng choked on his saliva. He had thought that Meng Ji Yao had seen something special about the woman. Who would have thought that she would say something like that? A woman? When he saw another woman, did he have to compare their figures and faces to see which one of them was prettier? Women were really strange creatures. Sometimes it was hard to understand what they were thinking. Said Lin Feng. "Everybody has their own merits," said Lin Feng. "You have a problem with your eyes." Meng Ji Yao snorted. Lin Feng smiled and said, "But I like you better. Why don't we find a place to have some fun?" Shameless. Meng Ji Yao rolled her eyes at Lin Feng. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel apprehensive. Was this woman trying to seduce him? She must be. "Why do you keep looking at me? Go and see if there's anything strange about that corpse." Meng Ji Yao said. Lin Feng retracted his gaze and smiled. He walked towards the corpse. Although she had been dead for many years, she was still in good condition. Lin Feng took off her storage ring. He tried to use his divine will to check if the storage ring was damaged. It would be even better if it wasn't. However, Lin Feng's divine sense was blocked. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. Usually, when the owner of the ring died, other people's godly awareness could invade the ring. Why couldn't his divine sense enter the ring? What's wrong? Meng Ji Yao saw Lin Feng's puzzled expression and looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng said, "My divine sense can't enter the ring." "There's such a thing?" Meng Ji Yao was very confused. She then asked, "Is there something wrong with the female corpse?" Lin Feng couldn't help but nod. He also had this feeling that something was wrong with the female corpse. At this time, Lin Feng suddenly heard the heartbeat of the female corpse. This gave him a huge shock. One had to know that undead creatures such as zombies, corpses, spirits, and other existences did not have heartbeats, because they were undead, not living beings. What kind of existence had a heartbeat? Only living creatures had heartbeats. The female corpse had clearly lost all signs of life before, but now there was the sound of a heartbeat. It was indeed very strange. Lin Feng looked at the female corpse in surprise. At the same time, he distanced himself from the female corpse in case something terrible happened. How strange. How long has he been dead? Can he come back to life? Meng Ji Yao asked doubtfully. If the female corpse had turned into an undead creature, Lin Feng and Meng Ji Yao wouldn't have found it too strange. After all, they had seen more than 10 beautiful female corpses turn into undead creatures before. Therefore, it was normal for this female corpse to turn into an undead creature. However, this female corpse didn't turn into an undead creature. She seemed to be coming back to life. This was very strange. Without any external help, could she really come back to life? Her eyelashes are moving. Lin Feng said. Meng Jiyao also saw that the female corpse's eyelashes were indeed moving. The female corpse was really coming back to life. Time is long. The cycle of reincarnation has reversed. Thousands of years have passed, and I have awakened from death. At this time, a voice suddenly sounded. The female corpse actually spoke. After speaking, the female corpse opened her eyes. She had really come back to life. It was as if he had seen a ghost. The woman sat up. She had a pair of watery eyes, which were very charming and charming. Her gaze seemed to contain a myriad of emotions. When he saw the female corpse's eyes, Lin Feng suddenly felt his heart throbbing. It was as if a dam had shown signs of breaking. How could it be so strange? Lin Feng hurriedly calmed his mind. This female corpse was too scary. You took my ring. The female corpse looked at Lin Feng and said, Here you go. Lin Feng didn't go over. It was better to guard against the female corpse. He threw the ring to the female corpse. The female corpse took the ring and put it on her finger. Thank you. The female corpse said, You're welcome. Lin Feng smiled. The female corpse sighed and said, I didn't expect that after so many years, everything here would still be the same. Nothing has changed. Are you the master of this palace? Lin Feng asked. Yes, I am the master of this palace. The female corpse nodded. Then she continued, I am the third ice goddess. The third ice goddess? Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao were very surprised. This female corpse was a titled god. Her background was quite impressive. A titled god had actually been resurrected. That was inconceivable. Lin Feng asked, What happened back then? The ice goddess sighed and said, It's a long story. Back then, there was an extremely powerful cultivator of the Tao of demons who was very fond of me, but I only treated him as a friend. He wasn't a bad person, but one day, for some reason, he went crazy. He came to the holy palace of ice again and asked me to love him, but I rejected him. At that time, there were still some friends and disciples present. After I rejected him, he went on a killing spree and killed many people. I was seriously injured in the battle and was placed here. I thought I was going to die, but today I woke up. As for what happened after I fell asleep, I don't know. I don't know what happened to my friends either. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. He had the feeling that there was something wrong with what the ice goddess was saying, but Lin Feng couldn't put his finger on it. Lin Feng glanced at Meng Jiyao. He saw that Meng Jiyao was also frowning. Could it be that she also felt that there was something wrong with what the ice goddess was saying? Lin Feng said, Your friends are all dead. I knew it would be like that. The ice goddess revealed an extremely sorrowful expression. Tap, tap, tap. At that moment, footsteps came from the corridor. The footsteps were getting closer and closer. It seemed that something was coming from the outside of the fifth palace. When they heard the footsteps, Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao's expressions changed slightly. Genius 1 second, remember this site address. Mobile version, reading website, chapter 5509. What kind of footsteps are those? Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. He and Meng Jiyao had only reached the fifth palace after passing through the fourth palace. They had only encountered danger when they had encountered the Yin god and the female corpse. The rest of the time, there had been no danger. Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao hadn't sensed any danger even when they had seen the destroyed corpses and the headless corpse. Now, the footsteps were heard. It was really strange. He's here. It must be him. I remember his voice. He's still here. Is he still alive? The snow goddess couldn't believe it. Lin Feng was very surprised. That was because he knew who the snow goddess was referring to when she spoke of him. It had to be that devil, the mysterious and powerful devil who had killed everyone in a frenzy. Lin Feng was very confused. He hadn't seen that guy before. Where had he been hiding? Or was he hiding in a room somewhere? Every palace had some rooms apart from the main hall. Lin Feng and Meng Ji Yao didn't open those rooms. Those rooms were indeed capable of hiding people. This is really troublesome. We won't die here, will we? Meng Ji Yao's face was pale. How terrifying had that devil been in the past been? Countless years had passed, so he must have become unimaginably strong. Dying at the hands of that devil didn't seem too surprising. Meng Ji Yao was worried, and so was Lin Feng. Said Lin Feng to Meng Ji Yao, "If you die later, won't you regret that you haven't done it with me 100 times? 100 times, and you'll die so early. I just want to bite you to death." Meng Ji Yao didn't give Lin Feng a good look. At that moment, a large amount of devil qi poured in from the passage, filling the fifth palace. The footsteps were getting closer and closer. Lin Feng's expression became more and more serious when he heard the approaching footsteps. Those footsteps weren't just simple footsteps. They also contained a terrifying power. If there was a specific word to describe this power, it would be terrifying. It was demonic power. This kind of demonic power gave people a feeling of fear and trepidation. No one could resist this demonic power. Not much. That terrifying existence had finally arrived. Lin Feng looked over. He looked surprised, because this terrifying existence was actually the headless corpse that Lin Feng and Meng Ji Yao had seen in the fourth palace. Was it that devil? At this moment, a huge axe appeared in his hand. The giant axe was shrouded in bloody light. After the headless corpse appeared, it immediately swung its axe at the snow goddess on the white jade bed. Countless years have passed, and so many people have died. Can't you let go of your past obsession? As long as you focus on doing good, you'll definitely be able to transcend after death. The snow goddess quickly dashed out, dodging the axe that was coming at her. Without his head, he seemed to be unable to speak. He continued to swing the axe in his hand. He slashed at the ice goddess. At this time, an ice god sword appeared in the snow goddess' hand. With the ice frost divine sword in her hand, she faced the headless corpse's giant axe. Clang! The two attacks collided fiercely, and an earth-shattering sound of impact was heard. Then, both sides quickly retreated. At this time, the headless corpse raised the axe with both hands. Terrifying magic power continuously poured into the axe, and the fluctuations became more and more intense. It was obvious that he was preparing an extremely terrifying technique. The snow goddess said coldly, "Stubborn, I can only disregard our old friendship and send you to the 18th level of hell." The snow goddess magic power also continuously poured into her ice god sword. The headless corpse held the axe in his hand. Once again, he slashed at the snow goddess. Slash! The snow goddess' voice was cold. Her sword slashed at the headless corpse. The axe and sword collided once again. Both sides formed a huge and terrifying aura, and then the two auras reached a stalemate. No one could do anything to the other. "Prince, hurry up and help me kill the headless corpse. Otherwise we'll all die here," said Lin Feng, shaking his head. The snow goddess looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng said, "Okay, I am happy to serve the goddess." Lin Feng took out the epic war spear. He held it in his hand and rushed towards the two who were in a stalemate. "Die!" Lin Feng waved the epic war spear and swept it at the headless corpse. But the epic war spear did not hurt the headless corpse. Instead, It swept past the headless corpse and swept towards the snow goddess. This sudden change of events. The snow goddess was caught off guard. The snow goddess quickly dodged. However, she still could not completely avoid Lin Feng's attack. Pooh! A spear light tore a huge wound in the snow goddess' abdomen. The snow goddess' body flew backwards. Why? Why did you attack me? Killing intent appeared in the eyes of the snow goddess. She was enraged. She was completely enraged. She felt that everything was so perfect. Why did Lin Feng attack her? If my guess is correct, the one who caused all this is not the headless senior, but you? Lin Feng sneered. Why do you say that? The snow goddess' eyes were filled with killing intent. At first, I wasn't sure, but from some of your words, I sensed something strange. But even so, I did not suspect you. It was only when the headless senior came that I realized your flaw. First of all, you said that the headless senior caused all this, and you said that he was completely crazy and wanted to kill. But when the headless senior came, he did not attack me or Meng Ji Yao. If he really is the kind of person you said, why didn't he attack us? Time has calmed him down. He is no longer as crazy as before, said the snow goddess. Lin Feng sneered and said, Is that so? I agree with you for now, but I still see other suspicious points. For example, after the headless senior came, he directly attacked you. Why did he do that? I remember you said that he loved you very much and pursued you for a long time. I don't know how he went crazy. If he wakes up after countless years, will he repent for his actions? I think he will. If it was any other man who unknowingly hurt the woman he loves, he will repent for his mistakes and not directly attack the woman he loves. Please remember the domain name of this book, mobile version of reading website. Chapter 5510. The snow goddess expression darkened, but she didn't say anything else. Perhaps she didn't want to refute Lin Feng's words anymore. Lin Feng continued, There's also something else that has aroused my suspicions. The snow goddess looked at Lin Feng. She couldn't think of anything else that could arouse Lin Feng's suspicions. Lin Feng said, The fifth palace is too clean. The battle back then was so fierce. So why didn't it affect the fifth palace? I think that's a suspicious point. Of course, if Senior Headless was killed, and the person who killed him died right after, then it's possible that the fifth palace wouldn't have been affected. But on the way here, we've seen some incomplete corpses, so I don't think it was those people who killed Senior Headless. Since it wasn't them, then it must be someone else. I've been wondering if the person who killed Senior Headless had passed away in meditation in another room. Now that I think about it, that's really possible. However, I like to look at things as a whole. If I look at the third suspicion and the first two suspicions together, then it seems that I can eliminate a lot of things, and it can also make me more certain of some things. Thus, I conclude that the culprit behind all of this is actually you and not the demon you mentioned. Wonderful. Truly wonderful. I have to say, your conjecture, it's really wonderful, said the snow goddess. Thank you for your praise. Lin Feng smiled. I didn't want to do this. Back then, they were all my good friends, but I couldn't control myself. Do you know why I couldn't control myself? Asked the snow goddess. Lin Feng shook his head. Meng Ji Yao shook her head as well. The snow goddess sighed. Someone planted a demon in me. Hearing that, Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. Meng Ji Yao came from an extraordinary background, so she obviously knew what it meant. Thus, when she heard the snow goddess say that, she was very shocked. Lin Feng asked, Who planted a demon in you? The snow goddess replied, I don't know, but I was inexplicably infected by a seed demon. I couldn't control my body, so I wanted to kill. First, I killed the people around me. Then I killed the others. I used all kinds of methods to kill them. For example, I had some friends. I cut them in half, then I pulled out their intestines and organs. Isn't it crazy? But the crazier it is, the more comfortable I feel. And many of my fellow disciples, the women in the holy palace of ice and snow, are pure and holy, so I used a seductive technique to control them. I couldn't let them die easily. I want them to die a humiliating death. They're crazy. They're taking from each other. Do you know what they look like when they wake up? They're practically going crazy. Their bodies are pure and flawless. Their personalities are pure and flawless. And they're fellow disciples who get along with each other day and night. How can they accept such a filthy thing happening to so many of them? But I kept torturing them, making them fall into the abyss step by step. Finally, one of them couldn't take it anymore and broke her own heart. After hearing the snow goddess, Lin Feng was speechless. He finally understood what was going on with the corpses. The reason why the corpses were disheveled was because of the snow goddess. This woman was really evil. Where's the headless corpse? Asked Lin Feng. It's him. It's all his fault. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be trapped here. The corpse's eyes were filled with killing intent. That person used to be one of my best friends, and the first person I killed, said Lin Feng. Back then, he didn't know I was infected by a seed demon. I told him I had something to discuss with him, and he didn't suspect me. I cut off his head when he wasn't prepared at all, said Lin Feng. But his head didn't die, and his soul didn't perish. So I destroyed his head. He was the strongest of them all. After he was killed, the others were no longer a threat, said Lin Feng, shaking his head. But I didn't think that before he died, he would curse himself. His body was corroded by the power of the curse, and he came back to life. He wanted to kill me. During the battle, I was cursed by him. Every 10 million years, I would wake up, and he would wake up as well. When I woke up, I would leave the fifth palace and try to leave the palace. He would try to stop me, but after so many years, we still haven't won, and I haven't been able to leave either, said Lin Feng. This time, it's a cycle of 10 million years. After you appeared, I woke up ahead of time, but because I woke up ahead of time, and because of the power of the curse, my strength wasn't fully recovered. I wanted to gain your trust, and then attack you by surprise. After I killed you, I wanted to eat your flesh and drink your blood. I could feel that if I ate your flesh and blood, my strength would increase tremendously. But who would have thought that this guy would wake up ahead of time and ruin my plan? Speaking of this, the ice goddess was flustered and exasperated. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. His eyes flashed with killing intent. She was furious. She wanted to kill everyone. Now, prepare to die, said Lin Feng, smiling coldly. Killing you is a blessing to the world. Kill me? Why? Because of you? Ridiculous, said the ice goddess mockingly. Obviously, she didn't care about Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao. Lin Feng noticed the wound on the ice goddess' abdomen. In fact, he had even fully recovered. Her recuperative ability was truly terrifying. But so what? Lin Feng had a lot of fresh troops here. Lin Feng waved his hand, and the Book of the Undead flew out. Then, 56 undead flew out. After seeing so many undead, the ice goddess's face suddenly became extremely ugly. Although she was very strong, Lin Feng had the headless corpse as the main fighting force, coupled with the help of so many powerful undead creatures. How could the ice goddess be a match for so many people? Despicable and shameless. An unfair victory. The ice goddess said these words coldly. To deal with an evil existence like you, any method is fair and square. Lin Feng said with a sneer. Then he looked at the headless corpse and said, Senior, let's work together to kill her, lest she go out in the future and collude with the creatures of the world behind the scenes to bring disaster to the world. Please remember the domain name of this book, mobile version of reading website. Chapter 55:11. The headless corpse could no longer speak. However, he was using his actions to tell Lin Feng what his plan was. The headless corpse wielded a huge axe and rushed towards the ice goddess. The axe in his hand flickered with a cold light. It was truly terrifying. Lin Feng ordered the 56 undead to attack the ice goddess. In fact, Lin Feng didn't like killing such a beautiful woman. The ice goddess was too beautiful, and it would be a pity to kill her. However, the ice goddess had been planted with a demon. Once she was planted with a demon, she would completely lose herself. Such a person naturally couldn't be left alive, because if he continued to stay, he would definitely become a pawn of the mastermind behind the scenes. Only the mastermind behind the scenes knows how to plant demons. Lin Feng also participated in the battle against the ice goddess. Because Meng Jiyao's magic power was sealed, she could only watch from the outside. It was impossible for her to participate in this battle. Just as Lin Feng and the others were about to attack, the ice goddess took out a defensive treasure. It was a defensive treasure that looked like a metal ball. It was unknown what kind of treasure it was, but it released a dazzling golden light. The golden light formed a huge energy shield. The energy barrier protected the snow goddess within. Bang, bang, bang. When all kinds of attacks came, they were all blocked by the energy shield. Lin Feng sneered. Ice goddess, so what if you have a powerful defensive treasure? Your defensive treasures won't be able to last long. Lin Feng was quite confident in breaking through the ice goddess's defensive treasure. He believed that it wouldn't be long before he could destroy the ice goddess's defensive treasure. When that time came, the ice goddess would die. The ice goddess said coldly, "It's not me who will die. It's you who will die. Are you talking in your sleep?" Lin Feng said sarcastically. The snow goddess sneered and said, "I can communicate with the mastermind, but I haven't done so before. That's because once I communicate with the mastermind, I will become their slave. If I don't communicate with the mastermind, I can still live happily and freely for a period of time. But now I understand. So, what if I become the mastermind's slave? Becoming strong is the most important thing. Everything else is secondary. Once I contact the mastermind, you'll all die." As soon as she finished speaking, the ice goddess began to chant an incantation. Her voice was extremely soft. Therefore, he couldn't hear her incantation at all. Lin Feng didn't care about the incantation she was chanting. Lin Feng only knew that the current situation was quite bad, and he had to quickly break the defensive barrier. The mastermind behind the interruption of the ice goddess communication. Otherwise, the situation would be extremely bad. Lin Feng and the others' attacks were getting stronger and stronger. Bang! Finally, the defensive barrier was completely destroyed by Lin Feng and the others. Seeing that the defensive barrier was destroyed, Lin Feng immediately showed a happy expression. The ice goddess expression couldn't help but change slightly. She hadn't been able to communicate with the mastermind yet. Lin Feng, the headless corpse, and the 56 undead were already rushing towards her. Even if I haven't been able to communicate with the mastermind, I can already borrow a part of his power. So I'm not afraid of you. As soon as she finished speaking, the ice goddess continuously changed her incantation. Then a large amount of black fog came out of her body. This black fog was really terrifying. It emitted a gloomy and terrifying aura. That kind of aura made people's hearts palpitate. The black fog fused with the ice goddess, and the ice goddess aura became many times stronger than before. She swept out her sword. A thick sword light suddenly flew out and swept towards Lin Feng and the others. Lin Feng, the headless corpse, and the 56 undead blocked the sword light's attack one after another. They joined forces and barely blocked the sword light's attack. But they were still sent flying. So abnormal. Lin Feng's expression became ugly. So many of them joined forces, but they were still sent flying by the ice goddess. The ice goddess was really too terrifying. The situation seemed to be a bit dangerous. I'm invincible. The ice goddess suddenly laughed proudly, just as she finished speaking. The next moment, buffed, a cold light. It directly pierced through the ice goddess' chest. That cold light had suddenly appeared from behind. It pierced through the ice goddess' chest from behind, so the cold light flew out from the front of the ice goddess. What is that? Lin Feng was surprised. You're the thing, your whole family are things. At this time, the cold light stopped and angrily looked at Lin Feng and said, Lin Feng was finally able to see clearly what that cold light was. It was actually a black bug. It looked a bit like a black beetle. It was too strong. Lin Feng didn't know that there was such an existence hibernating here. The ice goddess obviously didn't know that there was such an existence hibernating here, or she would have been on guard. Of course, strictly speaking, this black beetle was no longer a black beetle, but an undead that it had turned into. Black beetle's corpse chi was very heavy, like that of an insect zombie. It's you. After seeing Black Beetle, the ice goddess' face revealed an expression of disbelief. Black Beetle said, Hee, that's right, it's me. You didn't expect it, did you? I actually turned into an undead too. You're also a friend of the ice goddess? Lin Feng asked in surprise. Black Beetle said, Before, I wasn't qualified to be her friend. Then what's your background? Lin Feng asked. Black Beetle said, Back then, I had just started cultivating beast chi, but my cultivation was limited. I almost froze to death in the ice and snow, but the ice goddess saw me. She said that even ants have the right to live. Even a bug should be treated kindly. So she saved me. After that, I cultivated in the holy palace of ice. But after the ice goddess demonized, I was killed by her. After a long time, under the nourishment of the curse of the headless corpse, I turned into an undead. Actually, I really didn't want to deal with the ice goddess. After all, in my previous life, the ice goddess saved me. But after she killed me, we were even. Now, I want to kill you because you've become a pawn of the mastermind. Even though I'm just an insect, I don't want to see the myriad worlds plunged into misery and suffering. Hearing Black Beetle's words, Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. Black Beetle's awareness was really high. A small bug like him actually cared about the common people. How admirable! Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 55:12. Lin Feng felt like he had to improve his thinking and self-awareness. After all, his awareness couldn't compare to that of a bug. How could it be justified? What you're saying is just pompous. You've all turned into undead creatures, so you want to change the current situation. Undead creatures are miserable, they live in pain. But if you can save people or make great contributions to the universe, you'll be blessed with luck. That way, you'll be able to get rid of your status as undead creatures, said Lin Feng. The snow goddess sneered. Black Beetle said, I don't deny what you're saying. Since you don't deny it, I'll point you in the right direction. Join the mastermind, and you can also be reborn. Black Beetle sneered. Black Beetle sneered. Although we want to be reborn, we also want to save the innocent. Why would we work with the mastermind? Do you think others will be grateful to you? You're just a bug. Do you think you can become a hero just because you have some cultivation? What a joke. The snow goddess sneered. Black Beetle said, I've never wanted to be a hero. I just remember what you said to me back then. Even ants have the right to live. Even if it's just a bug, it should be treated well. Since even ants and bugs have the right to live, what about the countless intelligent creatures? Shut up, the snow goddess said coldly. Black Beetle didn't shut up. He continued, whether I'm alive or dead, I won't forget what you said. Lin Feng said. The person who said those words back then threw them to the back of his mind, abandoning his dignity and soul. But those who heard them treated them as life's motto. Senior Black Beetle, I really admire you. The snow goddess is no longer the snow goddess of the past. Let's kill her while she's injured to prevent future troubles. All right, let's do it, Black Beetle said. He didn't want to wait any longer. Lin Feng, Black Beetle, the Headless Corpse, and the 56 undead creatures attacked the snow goddess again. At that moment, the snow goddess let out a sinister laugh. I'm already a slave of the mastermind. How can you kill me? As soon as she finished speaking, she began to pray. Great mastermind, please take me away. My soul belongs to you. At that moment, Lin Feng and the others arrived. Just as they were about to kill the snow goddess, a terrifying beam of light shone down from the sky. Lin Feng's expression changed when he sensed the terrifying power of the beam of light. He felt his blood begin to circulate rapidly. That meant that the situation was extremely dangerous. Lin Feng knew that the black light was extremely dangerous. He couldn't touch the black light. Otherwise, he would die under the attack of the black light. Retreat, said Lin Feng in a deep voice. He immediately moved backwards. At the same time, Black Beetle, the Headless Corpse, and the 56 undead creatures. The beam, Then, the ice goddess disappeared without a trace. Damn it, she got away. Lin Feng's expression darkened. Letting the snow goddess get away wasn't a good thing. But what was done couldn't be undone. There was nothing he could do. Let's go and see if the seal has been loosened, said Black Beetle at that moment. He and the Headless Corpse quickly flew outside. Lin Feng sent the 56 undead creatures into the Book of the Dead, then put it away. Let's go and take a look. Lin Feng looked at Meng Jiyao. All right. Meng Jiyao nodded. They followed Black Beetle and the Headless Corpse into the corridor. The corridors of the Ice Palace were arranged in a square pattern. In other words, there were actually 4 corridors. There was a corridor in the north, south, east, and west. The western corridor was connected to the 5th palace. After exiting the 5th palace, they arrived at the western corridor. Black Beetle and the Headless Corpse turned into the corridor on the left, then the corridor on the right. There were many rooms on both sides. At that moment, they stopped in front of one of the rooms. Even though many years had passed, the restrictions on the room still hadn't disappeared. What's sealed inside? Asked Lin Feng curiously. The celestial world's essence is sealed inside, said Black Beetle. The celestial world's essence. Could it be that the celestial world's essence was born? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. If that was the case, it would be heaven-defying. If he refined the celestial world's essence, his cultivation would definitely increase greatly. Lin Feng was naturally very interested in the celestial world's essence. Right, said Black Beetle. Black Beetle and the Headless Corpse began to attack the restrictions. They wanted to break the restrictions, but the restrictions were too powerful. They couldn't break them. Who set up these restrictions? How could they be so strong? Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. Naturally, it's the Ice Goddess seal. She's extremely skilled in formations and restrictions. I don't know how she got the celestial world's essence, but no matter how she got it, it's going to belong to us today, said Black Beetle. Black Beetle and the Headless Corpse continued to attack the restrictions. However, restrictions were different from defensive barriers produced by treasures. Restrictions were formed by countless runes gathered together, and they contained an intricate structure. Breaking these restrictions was a very difficult task. It was even more difficult to break them with brute force. Therefore, even though Black Beetle and the Headless Corpse were very strong, they couldn't break the restrictions. Lin Feng said, "I can help everyone enter. Regardless of the celestial world's essence inside, we'll split it into 3, 1 for each of us." "You have a way." Black Beetle was surprised. "Of course." Lin Feng nodded. Black Beetle muttered a few words in front of the Headless Corpse. It seemed to be communicating with the Headless Corpse. Soon, they seemed to have come to an agreement. Black Beetle was convinced. "All right, we'll do as you say." Meng Jiao was a bit depressed. These 3 fellows were ignoring her. However, she was just a prisoner. It was normal for them to ignore her. Lin Feng wanted to include her in the group to get more of the celestial world's essence. Black Beetle and the Headless Corpse would definitely not agree. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 55:13. Lin Feng activated the stone scripture. The stone scripture emitted a divine light that enveloped Lin Feng, Meng Jiao, Black Beetle, and the Headless Corpse. Then, Lin Feng pushed the door open. "Damn, what's going on?" Seeing this, Black Beetle was completely dumbfounded. Earlier, he had joined forces with the Headless Corpse to break the seal. But they hadn't succeeded. Lin Feng had actually ignored the seal. Wasn't that too inconceivable? However, it was all real. "Hee, let's go in," Lin Feng said with a smile. Black Beetle tried to fly into the room. When he came into contact with the seal, he was still a little nervous, afraid that the seal would attack him. After coming into contact with the seal, he found that nothing happened. This made Black Beetle very excited. Black Beetle successfully entered the room. The Headless Corpse and Meng Jiao also entered the room. There was an ancient golden cauldron in the room. The ancient golden cauldron was sealed, and no one knew what was inside. If there really was the source of the heaven realm, it should be inside the golden cauldron. Meng Jiao knew that she didn't have a share, so she stood in the distance and looked at Lin Feng with gritted teeth. Meng Jiao's resentment was very strong. He looked like he wanted to eat Lin Feng alive. She was also cursing Lin Feng in her heart. Lin Feng happily opened the lid of the ancient cauldron. Immediately, he discovered that there was a ball of pure origin sealed inside. What a waste! What a waste! Black Beetle shouted gloomily. "Senior, why are you shouting?" Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. Black Beetle said, "Back then, I saw the source of the heaven realm. Its effect was more than 1,000 times. Although the source of the heaven realm hasn't been destroyed, its effect has been greatly reduced." Said Lin Feng, "Time makes people grow old. The original essence of the celestial world can't escape the erosion of time," said Lin Feng. Black Beetle nodded sympathetically, but he soon realized what was going on. Black grapes, the banana had softened. This kid seemed to be hinting at something. "Fuck, you're not a good person," Black Beetle said. Meng Jiao was a bit confused. She didn't know why Black Beetle had suddenly said that Lin Feng wasn't a good person. Could it be that there was internal strife? Was there an imbalance in the distribution of the loot? Let's fight. Let's fight. It would be best if they fought. Both sides suffered great losses. Break the seal by yourself. And when the time comes, all of you will become prisoners, especially Lin Feng. When the time comes, watch how this fairy tortures this bad guy. But soon, Meng Jiao was disappointed because Lin Feng and Black Beetle didn't fight. Said Lin Feng, "Master, since you don't like the original strengths of the celestial world, why don't you give them all to me? I don't mind having more of them," said Lin Feng. "Why is your skin so thick?" Black Beetle curled his lips and said, Although the effects aren't as good, it's still effective. Black Beetle divided the Heaven Realm source energy into 3 parts, one for each of them. Lin Feng put his share away. He would find some time to refine the Heaven Realm's source energy. Black Beetle said, "The Ice Goddess is no longer the Ice Goddess. Since she suffered a great loss before, she definitely won't let it go. She'll definitely think of a way to take revenge on us. So you should be careful." Lin Feng said, "There's a saying that even if the sky falls, the tall ones will hold it up. So, if the Ice Goddess really wants to take revenge, she'll come looking for you first." Who knows? It's good that she comes looking for us first. We'll definitely kill her. Black Beetle said, "Do you hate her that much?" Lin Feng asked. Black Beetle said, "Not hate. I just want her to be free as soon as possible." After chatting with Black Beetle for a while, Black Beetle and the Headless Corpse left. Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao left as well. Meng Jiyao said pitifully, "Can you let me go now? You want to leave me that badly?" Lin Feng smiled at Meng Jiyao. Meng Jiyao said, "I just remembered that I have some urgent matters to attend to." Of course, Lin Feng didn't believe Meng Jiyao. He grabbed her and put her on his shoulder. Meng Jiyao started struggling and shouting, "Put me down! Put me down! Slap! Slap!" Lin Feng slapped Meng Jiyao's perky breasts 3 times in a row, causing tears to well up in her eyes. Lin Feng said, "I can let you go, but you'll need that old bastard from your clan to give you a teleportation stone." Meng Jiyao said angrily, "I already gave you the token to enter the divine court. Aren't you satisfied with something so precious? There's a saying that even the wool of a sheep can't be shaved. You captured me and want to extort so many precious things? Isn't that too much?" Lin Feng said, "I'm willing and I like it. What can you do about it?" Meng Jiyao was about to explode from anger. All the grievances she had suffered during this period of time poured out. She cursed loudly. "Lin Feng, you bastard, bastard, shameless, pervert, despicable." Meng Jiyao cursed whatever sounded bad. Slap, slap, slap. Lin Feng slapped her again and again. Meng Jiyao cried out in pain. However, the grievances and anger in her heart intertwined. So she didn't shut up. Instead, she continued to curse Lin Feng. "You despicable bastard. I'll definitely kill you. I'll tear your corpse to pieces. If you curse me, I'll slap you." Lin Feng said, "Slap, slap, 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 slap." Another slap landed on Meng Jiyao's perky breasts. Meng Jiyao cursed, "Lin Feng, you're bullying a woman. You're not a man." "Hee, you'll know soon enough whether I'm a man or not." Lin Feng laughed. There was a poem that was very good. Young men and women were amorous, and their love in brocade tents was endless. Xing came to a hotel, and Quang Hun was suspected to have entered an immortal boat. His face was stained with sweat and rouge, and his face was stained with oil. One fell, the other couldn't sleep, and the rooster crowed until the dawn of autumn. This poem was about a man and a woman who were together without sleep or rest. Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao reappeared. The sky was still filled with stars. Lin Feng felt refreshed. Meng Jiyao's eyes were red and teary. When she looked at Lin Feng, she gnashed her teeth hatefully. "Lin Feng, I hate you." Meng Jiyao said hatefully. Said Lin Feng, "We're enemies. Isn't it normal for you to hate me?" Lin Feng said, "I've never seen someone as shameless as you." Meng Jiyao said through clenched teeth. Lin Feng said with a smile, "I don't think I'm shameless. How about this? Since you've already done it with me 100 times, I'll take you as my concubine. What do you think?" Please remember the domain name of this book, mobile version of reading website. Chapter 55:14. Lin Feng had taken her virginity, which made Meng Ji Yao gnash her teeth in hatred. Now, Lin Feng wanted to take her as his concubine. How could she agree? She was a woman who valued her virginity, but yesterday's events were unforgettable. She glared at Lin Feng and said, "Don't even think about it." Lin Feng said, "Maybe you'll cry and beg me to take you as my concubine in the future." "You're daydreaming," Meng Jiyao said through gritted teeth. Not long after, they saw Tao Tai and Wu Xiuren. Those two guys were looking at Lin Feng and Meng Jiyao in an ambiguous way. Meng Jiyao was so angry that she wanted to draw her sword and kill them. "What do we do now?" Tao Tai asked. Lin Feng said, "We still need a few dozen teleportation stones. Those things aren't easy to get. We can extort some from that old bastard from the Meng clan." Meng Jiyao looked at Lin Feng coldly, but she didn't say anything. No matter what she said, Lin Feng wouldn't change his mind. Said Lin Feng, "Initially, I wanted to ask Old Man Meng for more teleportation stones, but because of you, I'll let you go. Give him 10 teleportation stones, and I'll let you go," said Lin Feng. Meng Jiyao naturally knew who Lin Feng was talking about. Meng Jiyao respected her ancestor very much, so when she heard Lin Feng call him Old Ghost Meng, she couldn't help but be furious. She kicked at Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng easily dodged it. "Should I thank you for that?" Meng Jiyao said coldly. Lin Feng lowered his voice and said, "If you want to thank me, we can fight another 300 rounds tonight." Meng Jiyao blushed and reached out to grab Lin Feng, but Lin Feng dodged. The news of the southern region's saintess, Meng Jiyao, being captured by the human-beast combination had already spread. Many people had heard of this matter. Meng Jiyao, as the holy maiden of the southern region, had countless suitors. So when they heard this news, many of Meng Jiyao's pursuers were furious. They formed an anti-human beast alliance and searched everywhere for the whereabouts of Lin Feng and the others. All of them wished they could tear Lin Feng and the others into pieces. As for the Meng clan, they were also searching for the whereabouts of the human-beast duo. Right at this moment, a piece of news spread. "If you want Meng Jiyao, give me 10 teleportation stones. The location is in the Ice Land, and the ancestor of the Meng clan can't come. Otherwise, I'll kill her." This news caused a huge uproar. They had kidnapped Meng Jiyao. He even threatened the Meng family's ancestor with this. The old ancestor of the Meng clan was an extraordinary figure. Would he be threatened? The old ancestor of the Meng family was furious when he heard the news, because it was the first time he was threatened. Thinking of the human-beast duo Lin Feng, the old ancestor's face couldn't help but become gloomy. He wished he could tear Lin Feng apart. He chased Lin Feng for a long time, but he couldn't catch up with Lin Feng. This matter made the old ancestor of the Meng family quite depressed, but his luck was really good, although he couldn't catch up with Lin Feng. But after losing Lin Feng, the old ancestor of the Meng clan obtained an opportunity. His cultivation had improved by quite a bit. The old ancestor of the Meng clan wanted to cut Lin Feng and the others into pieces, but he remembered that Meng Jiyao was in the hands of Lin Feng and the others. The old ancestor of the Meng clan hesitated. What if Lin Feng and the others really killed Meng Jiyao? The old ancestor of the Meng clan liked Meng Jiyao very much. There was a reason why he liked Meng Jiyao. First of all, Meng Jiyao was very talented. Second of all, Meng Jiyao was humble, studious, and smart. The last point was the most important one. Meng Jiyao's bloodline was very special. Her bloodline gave Meng Jiyao a powerful perception. It was an unparalleled perception that no one could compare to. Even someone as strong as him couldn't compare. to Meng Jiyao in terms of perception. This was the most terrifying point. The old ancestor of the Meng clan knew one thing. If one wanted to surpass the Saint Realm, one needed extraordinary ability. What was extraordinary ability? It was reaching the pinnacle in a certain aspect. This was what it meant to surpass others. Only then could one soar to the sky. Only then could one have a chance to reach a higher level. Among the descendants of the Meng clan, the old ancestor of the Meng clan favored Meng Jiyao the most. Therefore, Lin Feng and the others asked for 10 teleportation stones. The old ancestor of the Meng clan could give them to Lin Feng and the others. Soon, the old ancestor of the Meng clan said, "I can give you teleportation stones, but you can't hurt Ji Yao." Lin Feng spread the news. "Don't worry, we are very honest. We won't hurt Fairy Meng." Many people sighed. They hadn't thought that this matter would be resolved this way. However, many people felt that under the calm, there were turbulent waves. Once the transaction was completed, the Meng clan wouldn't give up. While waiting, Lin Feng pulled Meng Jiyao to dual cultivate more than once. "I'm about to break through." "Today," Meng Jiyao exclaimed with a smile on her face. "TSK, TSK, if it weren't for me, would you be able to break through so quickly?" said Lin Feng shamelessly. Meng Jiyao ground her teeth and said, hatefully, "I'd rather not break through like this." "You should cultivate well. It's best if you can break through," said Lin Feng. Meng Jiyao bit her red lips and ignored Lin Feng. She immediately went into seclusion. Meng Jiyao had really broken through. Lin Feng had also broken through. Meng Jiyao had broken through because of dual cultivation. Lin Feng had broken through because of dual cultivation and refining the heaven world source energy. Lin Feng was originally at the 4th layer of the virtual immortal realm. After coming out of seclusion, he actually broke through to the 7th layer of the virtual immortal realm. Ever since entering the world of time, reversal, Lin Feng's cultivation had skyrocketed. Before entering, he was only at the earth immortal realm. After entering, he broke through to the sky immortal realm and then the true immortal realm. Now, he had even broken through to the 6th layer of the true immortal realm. This kind of speed of improvement was enough to make people dumbfounded. However, Lin Feng didn't have any complacency. There were 4 great realms in the true immortal realm. Golden Sage. He was only at the 1st layer. Moreover, the Sage realm above the true immortal realm was divided into 9 great realms. Moreover, there were still realms above the Sage realm. Even though Lin Feng didn't know what the cultivation layer above the Sheng layer was, he had the impression that it was the same cultivation level as the one behind the scenes. If he wanted to survive the world extermination battle, he had to at least break through to the Sage realm to fight for that slim hope. If he wanted to protect his family, lover, friends, and so on, he would have to surpass the Sage realm. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website